Yeah. Yeah. I know they mad for no reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Gotta move fast for a reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Oh, 700K, I'm selling a Bitcoin. Haters mad, but they listen to this one. More profit coming to my direction. You know me, I don't need a mention. I got the remedy, ooh, yeah. They don't just follow me, ooh, yeah. You say allegedly, ooh, yeah. You would subscribe to me, ooh, yeah. Staring at chart, drawing a line. Make a decision, you out of time. Huddling, huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. See on stage. OnChain Revolution. Guns. Boom.
Welcome back to OnChain Revolution. My name is Shizzy on this channel. We're covering the entire crypto ecosystem. What is up, guys? We have an amazing show for you guys today. We're live from the OnChain Hour, and we got Bitcoin sitting at 92,275. It is amazing right now. We are top $12,000 from the bottom, about almost like 15% from the bottom. You are kind of seeing Bitcoin still in the red for November. We're going to talk about that later. Big things happening in December, right? I always say markets are forward-looking. We're looking forward to a lot of pretty amazing stuff. Like we're potentially looking forward to December 1st, which obviously is a new month. So we get a new candle, but we get Jerome Powell also stopping quantitative tightening. We've been tightening since the December of 2021. Think about that for a second, right? When was the top? It was November. Markets being forward looking. They saw that coming. They went, the opposite way, right? So I do think this is a sign of risk on. You're already kind of seeing risk on happening in the TradFi sector. Originally, a lot of TradFi investors were going into stuff like NVIDIA and, Microsoft and Google with leverage. And now you're kind of seeing them go into a lot of retail stocks, meaning like Macy's and stuff like that. You are seeing the trader come out of a lot of people from retail, which makes me feel like risk is coming on, right? They want to get more risky as we get closer to the end of the year. And on top of that, you got to see silver at an all-time high today. And silver, obviously, we saw gold at an all-time high for like 2 months. Silver is another sense of people trying to get risk on and going after their next big win. Already seeing gold as a win, right? Which makes me believe we're going to keep going further and further along the risk curve until we get to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then kind of get all the way down the risk curve because we know how risky crypto is. We're going to be covering a lot of cool stuff today. There was a hack with Upbit in Korea. We'll get into that. That was I think North Korea hacked them or something. It's craziness. We're going to get into all that stuff. Monad, huge pullback today, down about 15%. It was up, probably I think 4.5 cents down to about 3.7, so not that bad. It's actually getting better as we go here. But the trenches got wrecked. Me and Yagobi have been playing in the Monad trenches. We're going to talk about that as well. And if there's anything you guys want to talk about, we're going to get into that. But today's title, XRP, Bitcoin, and alt holders. You guys are probably going to win in the next coming month for sure. So without further ado, let's get the show started. I'm bringing my partner here, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's up, man? How was your Thanksgiving? How's everything?
Thanksgiving was pretty chill. Got to eat some really, really good food, spend time with family. And I think that was obviously important on Thanksgiving Day, right? So I think a lot of people got to step away a little bit, at least for a couple of hours from, the trenches or just looking at charts and stuff like that. Maybe not so many people, right? People could still look at your phone and stuff, but it was good in the sense of kind of, just being able to relax, eat turkey, watch football and stuff like that. In terms of the markets getting back to it, that night, after dinner. It's good to see Bitcoin showing some strength here with this rebound, but at the same time, not getting overly, excited. I want to continually see progress, right? Because we do have a month that we're going into. And one of the interesting things that you pointed out was we started quantitative tightening in December of 21. And if you go back to the weekly chart, that's really when the bear market kind of sneakily started is in that December of 2021, because we had some ups and downs in the following couple months, but then it really got into some deep stuff with the war starting and Luna and all that stuff that everybody knows how 2022 played out. But here we're stopping the tightening. So most people's mindsets have already accepted that we're going into a bear market. But it's just kind of weird how things are playing out, right? We already knew this year cycle was different, but I think we're going to learn a lot more here in the next 6 months, 12 months of how different it is, right, than your typical cycle.
Yeah, I mean, this has been something like Benjamin Cohen has been preaching. He's like, stop looking at the 4-year cycle and saying this is when it runs. You need to be paying attention to what the Fed is doing, right? The Fed dictates the markets if we like it or not, right? The Fed cuts rates, we get excited. The Fed raises rates, we get really bearish, right? So, and, being in this tightening cycle that we've been in for, oh my God, it feels like forever at this point. It does feel good that potentially this could be the green flag for go, finally. Right. It's not printing money, though. People need to understand that they're not coming out and saying they're printing any money, but the forward-thinking people, the forward-thinking markets are going to be pricing that in already. They're going to want to get into positions that, when that does start, they're going to get ahead of it. That's how these, these rich people stay rich. They always stay ahead of the market. When you're buying, they're already selling because they already made their money. When you're selling, they're buying again because they're getting back into the markets. They're always ahead of us. But how do we stay ahead of that? We think like them, right? We're with these minnows, we attach ourselves to the whales, we follow the whales, and if we can just mimic what they're doing, or our portfolio is going to go up just the same as theirs, right? So that's kind of my plan right now. It's kind of just be ahead of the markets, just always be forward thinking, and I think that's how you win.
Yeah, and these traditional, I guess you would say, participants, right, in different markets and stuff, that the rich staying richer. They've been doing this with real estate. They've been doing it with, traditional stocks, TradFi, and all these other asset classes for so long. And you have to remember, whenever they come into our space, they already have the mindset of how this works right now. Obviously, they don't necessarily get super far down the risk curve, right? But they're dominating like the upper asset class, or part of that, our industry, right? Like the Bitcoin, the blue chips and stuff like that, because they know how to play the game, right? And so for us, I agree with you. I think like mindset needs to change a bit here, and I think it's happening for the people that are going to stay in the space and truly believe in it, right? You can still have huge opportunities here. You just got to really learn the game from some of these people that have been doing it for so long.
Yeah, and if you try to fight it, you're gonna lose every time, right? If you try to fight to try to do the opposite of the market, sometimes you're gonna get smacked in the face, and we've seen that over and over and over the last 2 years when we've tried and just couldn't get anything. But that's because we're fighting the grain, right? We're going the opposite direction of everyone else. We have to start going the other way. So, but shout out to Pure TradFi, GM, my first time here. Pleasure to listen. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today. I really appreciate you. Legendary Mike myself says, yeah, a nice healthy weekly candle in the Russell. Yeah, I think we got to start looking at the Russell. The Russell is a sign a TradFi is getting risky. They're getting out of Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, and getting into the Russell. The Russell is another index. It's the one below the 500. It's like the next 300, right? So the next 300 stocks that can't get in the S&P. That's what goes in the Russell. But that's risk on, right? And as we get into risk on, that's when you potentially see some penny stocks and people getting in pink sheets and stuff like that. So watching that basically is a sign that crypto's about to take off. All right. So, and then shout out the great Paula is here. What's up, OnChain Rev? What's up, Paula? Thank you so much for being back, hanging with us again today. But let's kind of get into our first topic of today, which is XRP, Bitcoin, and altcoin holders. A Fed about to print. Could this trigger a massive year-end setup? So, it does look like December is going to be bullish. It already feels that way. I feel like we're about to see a lot of momentum coming back into markets starting potentially Monday.
Yeah, and you're seeing these type of headlines too, right? Like about is the Fed about to print? Because there was a question mark in there, right? And I think that's the speculation is, when does that happen? And if you are looking forward, the market is wanting to get into more risk on. You'll see the transition. It doesn't happen just like snapping your fingers. You'll start to see something like silver start to gain strength, and some of these maybe not so established tech stocks, something more in the middle, in terms of traditional performance, get more attention. So we'll see how that goes, but I think for our space, we know that that's what's needed. It's like a lifeline at this point, right? Is that the extra liquidity, that extra mindset of being risk on is what's going to kind of get these altcoins going, because XRP, Bitcoin, XRP is in that class of top 5, right? So Bitcoin thrives for the most part. You'll see those top 5 blue chips thrive, eventually, right? But then it's like that next level. We just couldn't get to that next level as a group. It was one-offs, here or there. Aster, Hyperliquid, these type of situation. So does it happen as a group? We'll see what the liquidity situation looks like from a macro level. And if it does get laxed, then I do think we see something like that, where groups of different kind of going down the risk curve will start to benefit from it. There's a lot of mindset of, hey, look, I mean, the legacy financial system feels like it's at its breaking point, and there's really not any other choice other than to print. It's just, when is that going to happen, right? Because there's so many things that are backwards this year in this cycle, and I think that's happening for a reason. I think it's because there's a shift in change, right? There's change that's happening right now. We're kind of stuck in the middle of it. But I do think if that change does happen, there's going to be one last hurrah and surge of liquidity. And we could benefit from that.
Yeah. And speaking of like benefiting, retail has benefited from being in stocks, right? Like they've benefited from being in NVIDIA and Google all year. And they do, like, the show I watch every morning, pre-market prep, kind of gets people ready to trade that, the stock market, right? I let's do it, just kind of get the basic information of it and stuff like that. And they're basically saying right now that retail is getting out of NVIDIA, and they're getting out of these large caps to get into the more riskier stuff right now. They're saying the brick and mortar is running, like Macy's and all these, these Christmas companies. They're all starting to move right now, obviously preparing for, the Christmas holidays and stuff like that. So that really got me thinking, like, they have a lot of money that they've made over the course of the year. I mean, some of them put in, $50,000-$60,000. They're up. A lot of them are up. Normally what happens when you're up, you'd like to take a little bit off the top and get even more risky. And I think this is why December is going to be massive, because now it's the end of the year. People are like, okay, I just want to finish this year out with this. I want to take this $10,000 and put this in here, and let's see what happens. And I'll take profit at the end of the year, or maybe I'll take profit in the first week of January to push the taxes over and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. I think risk on is coming. And on top of that, people might not want to sell their NVIDIA and Google in 2025. They might want to wait until January 1st, January 2nd, so the taxes are pushed over to the following year as well. So I think that, we could really see a really good push up in December, and an even bigger one in January.
Yeah, and betting on these big box retailers, they're probably doing their research on which ones look stronger and things like that, and they can have them in those positions until, like you said, after the tax season of reporting is there. But it's also reporting the Q4 numbers would do well for some of these stocks next year, right? So that might be kind of whenever the exit plan is. But that's, in my opinion, that's risk on. That's like going into risk on, because you're laying bets, you're rolling the dice on some of these traditional big box, not really attractive when it comes to Macy's, JCPenney's, these types of companies. When it goes to, I know JCPenney's is private, I believe now, but like, you get the drift though. Like, those types of companies aren't really attractive when it comes to stocks and trading, right? But knowing that you got to kind of place them somewhere, place some of your capital somewhere, and there's a good upside of reporting from Q4. I think that shows that what's direction, at least, that the TradFi is heading in right now.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Got a comment from the great Jason. He says, Monad looking good.
Thank you.
Yes, which kind of transitioned us perfectly into Monad got wrecked. I don't know. So
Opposite
I
of
saw
what
your
he said.
comment. I was like, it's the opposite, but let's check it out. So Monad, let me give a quick refresh on my CoinGecko chart here. But you are seeing Monad sitting around 37 cents. It is down about 8.4%. It was way worse. I think it got to about 12% earlier. Yeah, down. It got down to like 3.3, 3.4, or 3.4. I guess was the lowest, 3.5. Before it pushed back up here. Monad got wrecked, but the trenches got toasted. I mean, absolutely toasted here on there. It is nad.fun. Me and Yagobi, if you've been watching the show, you guys know that we've been playing over here, kind of just messing around, not with a lot of money, just kind of making some bets and stuff like that. So what was your experience over the course of the last 48 hours, really? Because we had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. So I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I almost wonder if the break from Thanksgiving hurt the ecosystem. I have some ideas of what some other things that hurt the trenches from either a team that launched or the team of Monad. And I don't think necessarily that they were intentional, malicious type of acts. I think you just didn't pan out or play out the way maybe they thought. But look, let's talk about day one. Everybody was preparing for Monad. Day one was pretty exciting for the most part. Everybody was saying down only for the Monad token, which it did for the first maybe 3, 4, 5 hours, did go down only. It went down to 2.5 cents, only to kind of bounce back that night and get to almost 5 cents. So there was a lot of people that shorted. And if you got out initially in the first couple hours, you made out pretty well. But if you stuck around because you thought it was going to have a continuation to the downside, you probably correct to the upside, right? So very tricky on the leverage side of things. And it doesn't help whenever you have someone like Arthur Hayes that has a huge following say, I don't really like this coin or anything, but I'm going to play it to the upside because the opportunity is there with small circulating supply, et cetera, only to, after he closes long position, to say, I'm done with this shit coin and short it, right? So it's there's a lot of psychology out there on crypto Twitter that probably confuses people. So that doesn't help a ton, right? Now, with that being said, it didn't really crash after that tweet necessarily, but it has been for the last day and a half, kind of in a down only, but hovering around now, found its footing around, like I would say mid 3 cents, so 0.035 to 0.038, touching 4 cents every once in a while. So not bad. I think that Monad has a good opportunity. The token itself, not financial advice, everybody knows that here, but because the circulating supply is so low, if there is a bullish alt kind of moment in December, it has an opportunity to thrust up here, right? But I think we have to have that liquidity fill, that excess liquidity fill, right? Something that's going to help as a group, the alts, right? But anyways, transitioning over to the trenches side, a lot of opportunity. Again, you and I kind of agreed that the organic community that came out of the trenches got crapped on. Again, in another ecosystem that maybe shouldn't be too surprised. There's a lot of VC funding through this one, but you had something like NADS that was running, right, and had a clear-cut win and reaching almost a $3 million market cap, when the second highest market cap for memes was sitting around maybe like 800K, something like that, right? Only for the Chog NFT team, which is really intertwined with a lot of the builder ecosystem on Monad, launching a token, wanting to do it and kind of just pushing it out, finally launching it, and really having, I would say, not necessarily their fault, but the coin itself might have kind of ruined a lot of the momentum for the rest of the trenches, right? So that could have been done differently. I don't know how differently, because I feel like they were trying to figure that out. It obviously got sniped. People bought in at the top, 10 million to 13 million, and then got wrecked because it got all the way down to 5 million right this morning. So there's things that could have definitely happened in another way, but no launch is perfect. No, beginnings are perfect. Another thing too that was weird was, James, one of the co-founders, was really talking about a lot of tokens, that was launching on nad.fun, And people will just assume because he's a co-founder that number is going to go up constantly for a token that he talks about or bought into. It did the opposite. It would almost kind of like, sell down. So team probably learned a lot from it. I still think that there's like good opportunity here. It reminds me of the beginning days of Abstract, where you pick some of the winners at the first couple days and they ran pretty hard, and then everything pulled back. And then some of those grifters and devs and KOLs people got tired and, made their money and got out. And then you start to see the true believers start to bid on communities and coins like that. So I expect something like that possibly to happen next week in this ecosystem. But for now, you're probably going to see, some of these meme coins really just, continually get beat up or try to hover around their footing that they found.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of a different type of market going forward, though. I think that now that we have some of these sitting here, I do feel like more people are going to start entering the markets with just with opportunity on their minds, right? So I'm looking at this as maybe we haven't seen the runner of the chain out yet, right? Obviously Chog, and to your point with Chog. I think they did everything correctly if their whole thing was we want to launch on a Launchpad. If their mindset was we want to launch on a Launchpad, I think they did everything correct. They launched it 3 days later. They let it die out. There was no holders left, and then they launched it. If you're launching on a Launchpad, that's the only thing you can do. Like, what else can you do, right? But then when you put the contract address out, people are just so quick with it. These snipers, they snipe it right away. They see it climbing in the GMGN and stuff, and they get it. There's nothing you can do if you don't do a pre-sale, pre-sales are looked at as like this terrible thing, which I think Chog should have done. I think Chog should have done a pre-sale. They should have done a Dutch auction style where it was like, hey, send your money, send your monad to this address. If you and we'll kind of divvy it up there, right? The more you send, the more you're going to get, right? But you have a cap on how much you can get and stuff like that. I think that would have been the best bet. Then you airdrop everybody, and then you get the token trading. But then you're not on something like a Launchpad. You're not on NAD.fun. When you go here, Chog will be in this left spot, in my opinion, forever when you hit market cap, right? So, and that might be something they wanted to do. So I don't know. I think that they did the best they could with what they were working with.
Yeah, well, I think they could have been a bit more clear with what their intentions were, if it was going to be a Launchpad or not, because the reason why I say that is because they have a swap on their website, right? And the fact that I think they did attempt maybe, or they were about to maybe with the Launchpad before, and it seemed like they were going to do their own custom contract, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, that's not what happened. What they did was they just pretty much posted the contract address on the official Chog account, and you had to go and find it, and it was one of the ones they previously launched. I was okay with that, but at the end of the day, like, sniper still sniped, right? And that is something they came out and apologized for and all these things. But I mean, what else could you do, right? I think the Dutch auction was probably the best idea as well. But it did. I mean, there's a fact, I believe, if you have been participating in this ecosystem, it did affect the trenches. When I say that, you went from a leading coin that was sitting around 2.5 million, let's say 1.8 to 2.5 million, instantly just go to below 1 million or below from the launch. It hasn't recovered since then. So it's almost kind of like that's everybody can assume, or it could for me, I almost feel like it's fact, because it was just like it was the thriving token, the new community that was constantly ranging between 1.5 to 2.5 million, and all of a sudden now it just has no steam. It has no, like, what happened, right? So that was pretty weird. And then the rest of the coins kind of started to see liquidity come out of them as well. And then you had some weird runners that came out the next day, like Moncock and stuff like that. Now, again, nothing launches perfectly, but shout out to myself that says he got in with NADs at 500K, got out at 2 million. I feel dirty playing like a G. Don't feel dirty. You made a good trade, brother. And that's one of the things. This game is at this point where the market is, and until that changes with liquidity, that's the game. The way that myself played, those are the ones that are winning right now.
And I want to be more like myself, but I'm stuck in this hodl culture bullshit mindset where I want to hold this for a week. I want to hold this for 3 weeks. I want to hold this for a month, right? And kind of see what happens. Well, one thing about NADS that I think you're missing was NADS was the #1 token. It means a lot to be the #1 token, and I think that's why it had a lot of the momentum that we've seen. But once it got knocked out of that #1 spot, it just became like everything else, and that's why I think the market caps came down to where everything else is. I mean, we're seeing the top 2 through 5 just fighting back and forth. I mean, you can see Hog Dog at 2, and you see Emo Nod at 2, right? It's like a big fight here to find a winner. And I do think there's a lot of opportunity. Where is this one all about? Where did this come from?
Oh, so that one was, there's some story behind it. I think one of the founders talked about a cat with a banana or something like that. And so this is like a day one launch, but it has a 48% holders in the top 10, right? So
gotcha.
But again, I do feel like we're going to see something very similar to the abstract launch. I mean, there was, coins that launched that day 1, day 2, day 3 that, had a little bit of a bump up and then retraced to 80K, 100K. And then as time went on within that next week, you see them. Oh, wow, this is at like 1.4 million now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there's definitely, they've already started some of these rotations, after Chog launched, they did a rotation out of NADS, obviously into Chog, and then also some of that went into, hey, well, NADS is not the leader anymore. Let's pump something else, and they started pumping Moncock. It got to 1.7 million, right? And I remember seeing this with Abstract, and so Moncock, when they were done with that, they made their profit. They started rotating into Emonad, right? It got to 9,000 yesterday. So these rotations are from traders that are Solana traders, people that are just trying to take their profit. And eventually what will happen is they'll feel like the ecosystem's a little stagnant, and they'll be like, okay, well, we're going to leave. And that might be happening right now. Right. And once that starts to happen, then you'll have like the real Monad community people start to say, okay, we can start building up some of these communities that we believe in, and that could take until next week, right? Or it could take until 2 weeks from now. Who knows? One thing that helps everything is the entire market going up, right? So alts go up, then you just go down the risk curve. You start to feel like liquidity is more abundant, and then you'll see even some of like the not established DeFi communities, start to see some of their market caps just go up naturally because of that. And so that's obviously a variable that we don't know if it's going to come or not. And so we got to kind of wait and see. But regardless, I do expect some of these to bounce back, and some of the ones that you probably least expect it.
Yeah, 100%. And yesterday we did have a runner. It was called Run. Me and you both got in this. We didn't even know we each got into it till today. But I was sitting at my computer, just kind of looking at stuff, and then what I've been doing. I don't recommend doing this. I'm just a DJ, but I'll go to newest, right, and I'll just kind of sit here and kind of see what is happening, right. You can kind of immediately see that this one's running right now. And this is kind of what I saw yesterday. I was like, what's going on with Pokemon? Right. Or yesterday was runner, but I just saw this. So this was launched 2 minutes ago, and 64 holders. It looks like it's running. And this is exactly what happened yesterday with Run. And so that's how I found it. How did you find Run yesterday?
Well, I saw that it was in the migrated column, and it was running. It was running hard, just like the name, right? But the crazy thing is, I always try to look to see if there's more context to it. The person that launched Run, the Run token, is actually like a partner of one of the major funds that backs nad.fun. And he posted on nad.fun's post on X that nad.fun was like, we need a runner. And he posted, I think we have one in Run. And then that's what kind of got it going. It seems like there's a lot of Chinese community like interested in it as well, because I guess this guy, his name is Mike Bucello or something. Bucello. I guess the last token that he shielded was AI16Z Eliza, and it got to like 400 million. So the Chinese and Asian communities got really excited about it, but it seems like he's not really talking about it, and it's retraced since to like 107,000. So You know, that's the game. That's the game that we're in right now, man. You have founders of chains shilling, you know, a token that can't get too much motion. Even VCs that have called, you know, 100x runners previously, hard to get motion as well. And it's a tough market right now, these meme coins. And so you got to know that whenever you're messing with this.
Yeah, 100%. This is the bottom of the risk curve. Like I don't know anything more risky than, you know, potential these coins right here. So that's why I would make sure you guys all know this stuff is 100% risk, and you're completely gambling in this stuff. You might be able to find an investment maybe in something like Chog, but like anything else, you're really, you know, you have 99% against you, but it's still possible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but let's check out the NFTs. So, you know, just above, I guess, the meme coins would be NFTs. I don't know. What do you think is more riskier, NFTs or meme coins? Because I feel like at least with NFTs, I feel like these will be around in some type of capacity in a year from now.
Well,
right?
I mean, in the beginning of an ecosystem, right? Like there's, you know, more possibilities on the meme coin side as well. Like that some of them can have success just because there's not established ones yet. Same thing with the NFT side. You probably want to get the most, you know, supported from the ecosystem collections. You know, Chog obviously is very supportive or supported by the ecosystem. Molendak is another one that's got a lot of support. And obviously the ones that didn't mint out, probably, you know, ask yourself why. Why didn't they mint out? And then that's not a good sign, right? The ones that had hype and minted out pretty quickly, I'm sure that those would be the category that, you know, me personally would be looking at if I want to do any NFTs. And you have to remember NFTs are kind of at the end of the cycle though, right? So we haven't had alt season, and most of us are wondering when, if ever, that's going to come. And so you need that first, and that starts with fungibles. But, you know, if and when the NFT part of the cycle comes, you know, getting in early and getting in cheap is obviously good. But right now, it's just we need a signal from the macro, you know, part of the world, really, that hey, you know, risk on assets are okay. And until we get that, you know, NFTs are probably going to be in this very close to meme coins in terms of risk curve.
No, I agree. But I do think that potentially you can definitely find one of these NFTs right now. I mean, you're seeing, you know, I think you're right about Molen Lads. It actually got me kind of bullish on the token now, because Molen Lads, you know, this is a, you know,
Molendak.
Molendak.
Like,
what did I say? Molen Lads?
Molen Lads.
Molendaks. Yeah. Molendaks. It does seem to be interesting. They haven't done the reveal yet. What normally happens though is after the reveal, and then this might be where I get mine, because I might get one of these or a couple of these. It normally happens is they will reveal, and then everyone's chasing the rares, and they just keep dumping the commons, right? So you'll be able to get a common for potentially half this price that they're going for right now. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. I'm not somebody who I'm not gambling for rares. I just kind of want like a couple commons, because I do think, you know, there's gonna be a couple NFTs over here that do go, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40x from where they are at right now. So I am looking in that area, but it's going to be hard to find. I am kind of waiting, because we do know that, you know, obviously Chog is a, you know, NFT. So it'd be kind of cool to see, you know, when they launch the Chog. But that could actually be something for the whole ecosystem to kind of move up a little bit as well. So, and then the last thing I would say with Monad before we move on is there's a lot of opportunity. If you go to app.monad.xyz, there's a lot of different stuff happening here. You have, you know, obviously you have your exchanges, you have your games, you have your sync cup and stuff like that. So just keep an eye on this stuff. You might actually see some runners when it comes to utility coins coming from these actual assets themselves. So I would just say keep an eye on this if you are potentially trying to find something in Monad to hold rather than the Monad token itself. But these could be a lot less risky because they're from teams and stuff like that. But who really knows when it comes down to it, right? You can get rugged from a team just as much as you can get rugged from a community. So
yeah. And, you know, from the tech standpoint, I feel like I'm using Solana except for EVM. That's the only
Yeah.
difference, so I'm not used to sending something from a MetaMask somewhere and it's instantaneous in terms of receiving, right? I mean, there's some fast chains that I've used it with, but not like that. So
Yeah.
I'll say, like, from a tech stack standpoint, they are doing what they said that they would do in terms of performance. The marketing and all that stuff, that probably needs to get better, but that's, this team has been building for 3 years. I'm sure that they have plans to try to onboard more users, because the claiming and airdrop stuff seems to be exhausted at this point, right? People aren't willing to necessarily use their airdrop anymore or claims. And there needs to be a runner that's really strong on their chain that will attract more retail to say, okay, there's opportunity there. Until that happens, it's probably going to be, choppy in terms of volume and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move along. Deribit, the largest crypto options exchange, had over 15 billion and Bitcoin and Ethereum options this morning at 8 UTC, which is like in the middle of the night, it's like 3 a.m. Eastern time. But we had some options expire, so we're all set now for December. Brand new options came along. I think that's why you saw a little bit of pull up that happened, after 3 a.m. And which is something I think we need to start paying more attention to, because I do think options are going to get a bigger part of our ecosystem because of TradFi is entering, and they've always used options. And options kind of they help you in a way of being can't think of that word, being knocked out of your position before you want to, right? Options, you aren't getting knocked out, liquidated. You're not getting liquidated until you're ready to liquidate yourself, if that's what you want to do. So I think options are going to become a big part of the platform. So I think we have to start paying more and more into what Deribit and Hyperliquid now, what they're building with options as well. I think options are going to be pretty big.
Yeah, and I think the Hyperliquid product UI is better for the everyday person, right? So it's comparable to Robinhood's UI interface, right? And if it becomes more popular, then they're gonna because they still make money, right? The platforms will still make money on their fees and all these things, but it's almost kind of like changing the mindset of someone that's comfortable in the way they do things. People are comfortable using leverage, but if you're smart, then you'll say, okay, is this product give me an advantage, or does it give me a disadvantage? And you'll reassess, right? But I think it's going to be probably a little bit difficult initially to get people off of just the way of doing things with trading perps. But for me, I'm going to definitely be playing options if they are give me good options, no pun intended, in terms of date ranges and strike prices. If there's good variety, then I'll definitely be using those.
Yeah, 100%. And but that's the thing too. I think your crypto guys they're always going to use perps. They're not going to use options. They're used to it. They know how to use it, right? But when we're onboarding newer people to the space, because I think Coinbase just did a deal with Deribit or some kind, right, where they're going to start doing the options on Coinbase. That's who you want to attract. You want to attract the bigger guys to come in. How do you do that? Well, you give them the tools that they've gotten before, the options platform. So I don't think the options are here to change anyone who's already here. It's to bring more people in who that's how they trade, right? They don't go after Litecoin and stuff like that. They want Bitcoin, but they want an option for it because they want to predict the price in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's taken so long for those type of products to get here, is because the space knows the platforms that make so much money on liquidations and stuff, they don't want options because it takes longer and all these things, even though they're going to be making fees and all these things. But we'll see how popular it gets, right? At the end of the day, because one of my buddies, that's the brain surgeon, he trades options all the time, and he said that that's one of the only reasons he doesn't really trade in cryptos, because there's no options. He's like, he's not touching perps, he said. And he's a brain doctor, so he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah, for sure. Move along though. President Trump says he may totally eliminate federal income tax and use the tariff money to kind of be that new federal income tax. And then he also said, Trump says he will keep the stock market at all-time highs. What is going on with this man? I feel like he just wakes up and he's just like, He's like, I'm just gonna say some wild shit today, but eliminating federal income tax, I think, is just his way to get, obviously the tariff situation is in the Supreme Court right now, and I think this is just his way of saying, hey, America, look, I'm trying here. I'm trying to eliminate federal income tax check. They're the bad guys.
Yeah, I think so too. And they're also talked about the 30% sales tax. That would be a nationwide situation. So I mean, the money has to come from somewhere, right? And
Does
so
it though? No, you don't need to take taxes if you have a money printer. Like, honestly.
I mean, do you want to increase
Don't
the
run a deficit. Well,
debt?
don't run a deficit. Don't run a deficit. Be zero, and then I think you're good. And just
Yeah,
print
but
money.
where's the money? Where's the money come from?
Like all the other taxes. There's a million other freaking taxes. Sales tax. I mean, right now,
Okay,
I think the government could run a loan just off freaking sales tax.
Well, sales tax is what he's trying to do. He's trying to increase the sales tax to 30%.
I don't think so. I think it's tariffs. I haven't heard anything about that sales tax thing in a while. I think it's
that's how they're getting the money, through tariffs and then an additional sales tax, like a nationwide a federal wide sales tax. So if I buy something from Walmart, there's a 30% sales tax that gets charged that goes from Walmart to the federal, the comptroller, whoever the federal comptroller office is or whatever, right? And so that's what they're trying to add to eliminate, your income tax from a federal.
Have you heard that
standpoint.
recently? Because he said today that
That's what they're
there's
trying to put in
enough tariff money. There's enough tariff money right now to eliminate federal taxes. That's kind of what Trump is saying right here. He's basically coming out and saying, hey,
well, it's in the bill.
Tariffs alone could eliminate federal income tax. Like, I feel like that was something from years ago that got declined. I think it was like last year.
No,
right?
I just recently heard it's been trying to be passed right now in Congress is a federal sales tax. But it's not necessarily just getting through very quickly. But yeah, and so at the end of the day, if there's enough tariffs, then that's great. But at least it's not going to be automatically taxed from your income tax, regardless, right? So if you're buying items or whatever, then that's going to be rolled into it.
Yeah, I think there's a 0% chance of that ever getting passed. There's no way, because who's going to suffer from that? The poor and the middle class. There's no way that gets passed. There's no chance. But if we do jack up tariffs the way Trump has been, and that pays for federal income, I mean, that's going to give a lot of more money in the pockets of U.S. people. I think the sales tax is a terrible idea, but the tariffs, I mean, they're already here. They're already being dealt with. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, any last words on potentially Trump keeping the stock market at all-time highs?
Oh, that is kind of like one of the things that I feel like he shoots at the hip, and he just says, I don't know. Well, I kind of felt like that with the tariff dividends going back to the public, but they've kind of given a date for that. So maybe we'll see. We'll see. I guess we have to wait until it doesn't stay at all-time highs, right? To see if he's wrong, or if he misses an all-time high opportunity. And
then he says some wild stuff here. QT ends December 1st, and I'm giving you the most bullish Christmas ever. This is probably fake, but
it is fake. You know that.
I know. But I was hoping it was true. There's a part of it. Let's move along. North Korea hacking group Lazarus is suspected to be behind a recent breach of around 45 billion, about it's won, so about $30 million of US dollars worth of cryptocurrency from South Korea's largest exchange, Upbit. Upbit parent company, Danamu CEO Lee Singu apologized for the recent security breach, admitting internal security lapses and pledging zero user losses. So they're going to cover all the losses internally. But North Korea going after South Korea right now when it comes to hacking. Pretty crazy, I thought, because they're always at war together, right? They hate each other, from my understanding.
I mean, they obviously have two totally different governments. One is communist and the other one is more capitalistic, right? And so but North Korea goes after everybody. I don't think this is just like them wherever they see that, that entry point, they're gonna hack it, because look, this is probably their number one GDP.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, think about it. I think they sell coal to Russia or something. Like, other than that, like, this is it. So they're gonna do this as much as possible. So, but pledging that they're gonna cover all the consumer losses is big, right? Because I think are they the largest crypto exchange in Korea?
In South Korea, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so they have to, if they're going to retain that title.
They're like 6 or 7 in the world too. South Korea has become such a crypto capital right now. They're just one of the biggest players. I think what is it, like 90% of the Gen Z in Korea is like in crypto. Like, that's pretty
They're
wild.
big about it. They're big about it, and they like to kind of gamble a little bit, right? But they just want to be a part of a big part of the future of crypto.
Yeah. Speaking of gambling, Kalshi is now facing a nationwide class action lawsuit alleging it's operating an illegal sports betting operation by misleading users into believing they are betting against other participants, when in reality, they are betting against the company itself. And I think this is an attack on Kalshi, and, because the way Kalshi works and the way that, Polymarket works is, obviously people can add liquidity to these markets. So, but if the company itself is adding liquidity to this market, is it really trading? If they come in and they put money on both sides, is that really trading against the player? I think that's one thing that we have to. That's where the laws are kind of messed up right now, because we don't know, because we're using smart contracts for everything. So if somebody wants to add volume or add money to both sides of something, you technically are trading against the other person, and that's kind of what the argument is here. Obviously, brought up against who do you think brought this up?
Vegas.
Well, Elizabeth Warren and Vegas, but yeah, I'm sure DraftKings, they were all part of it as well.
Well, DraftKings was told to pack up and leave if they wanted to do predictions markets in Vegas, and they said, okay, we're gonna leave, because they felt like that unless they do it, they're going to be behind Kalshi and Polymarket. Yep. And then there was a recent judgment that said, they can do predictions markets, but they have to get regulated by Las Vegas Commission or Gambling or whatever that entity is called. And so I don't know if that just only has to do with the sports part of the predictions markets or all of the predictions markets, but this is hitting our industry is constantly hitting like what's been centralized and what's been dominated and what's been controlled by these entities for so long that just make millions and billions of dollars on the public. And they don't like it because they've had power, they have connections politically, all these things, and now they're flexing their muscle, right? So I do think Kalshi's in a really tough spot, kind of all of a sudden. But also this could be to sneakily and quietly kind of pick a winner too, right? Like, I don't see Polymarket being like in the news constantly right now, being, in these situations and stuff, right? But Vegas definitely wants to make sure that they're not losing their empire of, sports betting and these type of things to the Web3 space.
Well, Polymarket hasn't opened up sports betting yet to the US. I think that's the difference, right? Kalshi has been operating in the US since day one. They've only operated in the US, right? They want to be, so that's the difference. And for anyone who doesn't know, the difference between something like DraftKings or like, MGM and stuff like that is you're betting against the house. In crypto or in predictions markets, you're actually betting, it's PvP. It's player versus player. If too many people take one side of the bet, it's not going to be profitable. And then you need other people to come in and take the other side of the bet. That's why you see it go from 1 cent to 99 cents or 50 cents, right? Because that's where you can get in it, and that's how you can kind of get your lead there. Because if something is like, oh wow, there's so many people on this side, it's profitable for me to take this side of the bet, right? So because I'm going to get, the risk versus reward is there. So, and that's really the difference between, what they've always done and what they're doing now. But this is something we thought about forever ago, right? Just if you're the house and, you're betting against people, like you're going to want to cheat, right? But when it's PvP, you don't care who's the winner because you're making money on the fees regardless. So there is no incentive to cheat, which kind of opens up everything.
Yeah. and reminds me a lot of kind of the PumpFun and meme coin model. Is like,
Yeah.
no wonder they're pushing the coin deployers, because they just want the fees. You know
Yep.
what I mean? At the end of the day, they just want to make as many fees as possible. And if you get as many coins as going as possible, that's probably maximizing your fee return as a platform. Is it good for the space? Absolutely not. Is it good for your pockets? Absolutely. As an owner of
100%.
one of these platforms, right? So, you know, I don't know what it's going to take to kind of make it all these Web3 platforms realize that like their consumer is their best asset. But going back to Kalshi, this is different. They're fighting a different battle. They're fighting, you know, the Vegas mafia, the Vegas mob that has had control for so long, and saying, hey, it's not going to happen as easy as you think.
Yeah, 100%. But we've seen DraftKings fight this battle against Vegas before.
Exactly.
Right. And then what happened? Well, then you see MGM app pop up, right? Then you see all these Vegas
Other
apps
websites
pop up, right? Other websites and stuff like that. So eventually if you can't beat them, then you join them. And I guarantee you're going to see MGM prediction markets soon. I guarantee it, right? So it's only a matter of time. But they will fight it until they're ready to launch their own product. So, but speaking of Launchpads and PumpFun that you mentioned, Launchpad volume just hit a new low last week and now down 78% year to date. Look at this, dude. Last December, obviously we had a little bit more bullish time with the Trump pump, but it's just been down only here in the sense of volume. PumpFun obviously still leading the charge by 99%. It looks
oh my
like.
gosh.
Pretty wild, man. Pretty wild. Bags. Damn, dude. Believes did $3,000 in weekly volume.
That project's pretty much done. Like there's no, the founder pivoted and is building something else. So, but it does show you the domination of Pump.Fun, right? I mean, that's crazy. That's a monopoly in a sense. But they're getting that liquidity from somewhere, because it's not that much of a, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not that much better of an experience. You know what I mean? And so it's almost like, hey, this is like an agreed upon thing, right? PumpFun's going to win, and you guys will have your turn whenever it's time. I mean, like, I can't explain it any other way. There's no other distribution now. Maybe everybody's like PumpFun's creator rewards is what's doing it. Sure. And why doesn't Bonk just do that and up their creator rewards to that? Right. And so it's just, to me, I look at something like this and I have to think with conspiracy, you know, in my mind. This is planned. This is like orchestrated. This is something not normal. This is not an organic, competitive market on Solana. It's not.
Yeah, I don't think PumpFun wants it to be. I mean, they're the original.
Of course they don't.
You
want
know
it
what I
to
mean?
be.
Like, so it's just like, so for them, it's like, you know what I mean? You're probably paying these people, right? You're probably paying these coin launchers where to launch, because they have communities and they're able to play in this casino, because potentially, you know what I mean, you're paying these guys, I don't know, potentially, you know, millions of dollars a year to kind of launch in your place, which is very common. I mean, you know, like you see it all the time. You pay people to do things for you. I mean, companies do it all the time. They pay for promotions and stuff like that. So I don't know. I feel like what Pump.Fun is doing is they're just,
so Bonk just doesn't want to.
They don't have
the
money. They don't have the money.
Okay, so everybody else just doesn't have money, basically.
Pump has the PumpFun token. They're able to give someone millions of dollars pretty easily.
I just feel like that's like someone with money could come in and say, "Hey, I'm going to start a Launchpad here." Well, I'm just saying though, like from a logical standpoint, someone bigger that have more money could do it.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying this. That's why I think it's orchestrated. That's why I think this has been organized. But it is what it is. That's that's how the space is. And I mean, it's just too lopsided. It's just absolute. Look at that. I mean, 3 million to half a billion. That's so wild. That's so crazy. The drastic difference there.
It just shows you a few things, though. It just shows you that there's nobody here. There's no one playing in these markets, right?
I agree with
and
that.
The people that are playing are being orchestrated, in a sense. But I just think these deployers are just like, hey, like, you know, we're launching on PumpFun. Who's going to pay us? I'll launch wherever. Who's going to give us the most money? And Pump's like, here, take it, launch here. I think that's just what it is. It's just the big money always wins. And you could have the best shop in the world, and then a Walmart moves in down the street. You're going to lose. You're probably going to go out of business.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I guess that's just showing that Pump has the most money, which we kind of said, right? We know that they do have the most money, but man, it's like the other ones aren't even competitive. Bonk's not competitive. Look at the you look. That's not competitive.
In my opinion, these are all going to zero. I don't think these will be. I don't think Bonk.fun. I don't think Bonk Launch Labs or Heaven are going to be around. In that sense of keep updating and stuff like that. They'll probably have a product and you can use it, but I think they're going to probably pivot to something else. I just don't feel like you can compete against Pump. You can't compete against it.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
But one thing about Pump though, I thought was weird is they're not going on any other chain. They haven't launched on Sui. They haven't launched anywhere else. They
don't need to.
On Solana. I know, but they could.
By the way, this is not. I'm not hating on Pump. They have proven and have the most success by far of any Launchpad. So they've dominated. Do I think that they've hit all their goals? No, absolutely not. Because like the streaming side, that's not a success. Let's be real with that, right? But in terms of volume, no one can touch them. No one can touch them. And I almost feel like during the summer when Bonk had the lead and switched back, that Pump was like, we're going on vacation for like 2 months or something. It's just like the way they took it back was just so easy.
Yeah. Well, I think Elon kind of stepped up at that point, right? He started like building what is it called? Creator economy. The streaming stuff was getting stronger. I think at that point he was like heads down building, right? He was trying to put out new stuff and he won. He came back stronger than ever. So
yeah, and you got a comment here from Superfan, one of our long-time community members and building in BTC. He said, I went to a crypto investor event a few months back. Almost every big VC in the room had a stake in Pump. The founder of Delphi was so happy about it. Yeah, and that's why I think like these investors that are trying to run to like nad.fun, they're hoping that it can be like that version. But you have to understand, like Pump is so good at what they do that they steal liquidity from everywhere.
Yeah. 100%.
Not steal, but you get what I mean. They demand liquidity.
Yep, for sure. All right, you ready to jump into the Bitcoin price action? Good with that?
Let's do it. It's not super great news, but we will get into it because we did have a good couple days there. But before we get into the price action, guys, help us out on the YouTube side. Smash that like. We see our subscription numbers going up, so we appreciate all of you guys. And then subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, all that great stuff on YouTube. And then on X, let's share the space as much as possible. Same thing with Abstract, Pump Streams, Zora Streams, Kick, Rumble, and Spotify. Let's get into some Bitcoin price action today on this Black Friday day. Let's take a looky. All right, let me make sure my screen is showing there. Okay, cool. All right, so this is where we are with Bitcoin. We're sitting at 91,100. So we are seeing a bit of a pullback, right? But this is after a strong up, like basically, this looks like a bull flag right here. It, is really, but we'll see if it plays out that way with a continuation. But you see the strong red candle. So we are seeing the pullback for sure. And then you see the MACD as well. Looks like it wants to go back into sell pressure, which would be unfortunate because we, technically have been in sell pressure going back to 5 a.m. yesterday, Thanksgiving morning, at least from the momentum indicator here. And so for us to go back into sell pressure, I think it's be important to see, if this has a continuation of a bleed out, right? So I think if we get to like below 90K today, then we will officially extend this into an aggressive kind of sell down situation. And so you can see on the stochastics as well, didn't really want to hang out here in overbought territory very long. It just really bounced back below. So we really need to see, is this kind of more of a fake out or is it a serious bleed out? As of right now, I mean, this is a serious hour candle, that is for sure. And it did just break down below 90s, and it looks like it's going pretty quick here. So we definitely need to keep tabs on this to see how this plays out here. One thing I did mention to you pre-show, for the people that are waiting for alt season and all these, or at least alts to perform well, I'm not so sure like Bitcoin being super aggressive is great. You know what I mean? So that, you know, maybe, you know, inching our way to 100K in December might be better, while some of these alts can get some attention, because that seems to be what happened a little bit from the rebound of 80K to, let's say, like 84, 85. Some of the alts were looking really strong, you know, saying, okay, you know, we want to see a rebound. But once we got over 90, 91, it almost kind of seemed like, okay, let's all see what happens with Bitcoin. Let's all focus on Bitcoin. And that's what we've been through times like that, right? But looking here back to 7 a.m., let me pull this in a little bit more. 5 a.m. this morning, you can just really see it's been dominated right here by the resistance, right? I mean, it does balance back here, but it's really low volume, so it doesn't mean much. You know, really where we compete again is probably in this area of the highest volume area, which is good, but we're still, you know, down a little bit to the resistance. The support is what I'm saying. And right now we're kind of in this free fall, and it's being dominated by resistance, you know, 24-0 in terms of the history there at that level, right? So we need to see this kind of calm down, find our footing, see where Bitcoin wants to chill out here, because as of right now, if it's continually free falls, and it's not going to be good, and we're going to find out where, you know, how bad it wants to bleed out. Now, after having such a good 2 days, I expect it to find its footing pretty soon. You know, I would hope, right? Getting below 90, I think, would be kind of crushing, as long as it's not, you know, sustained, right? If it's sustained like below 90 and it continues, that's crushing. If we bounce back over 90 pretty quickly, it doesn't hang out down there too long, I'm okay with that. We'll see how it plays out, but we're having a follow up here on the MACD too, so not so great right now, guys. We got to really see, kind of put a plug in the bleeding here. So that is Bitcoin for the rest of today, really the next 6 hours, I would say. And then let's take a look here at the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart looks like we might finally get that close. So it did extend out, like we said, that possibility, and we got a good push up to 92. So thinking about it, like, we got what we wanted, and eventually this has to close out. So, you know, how aggressive does it close out? That's the question, right? With what I'm seeing here, I actually wouldn't be shocked if we do go below 90, and maybe we hang out between 86 and 88, 86 and 90, somewhere in that range, right? Because we are going to go in a sell pressure session on the 4-hour. What does that mean? Today's Friday. That means that, you know, if it happens today, then I'd rather it happen over the weekend than at the start of a week, right? Because, you know, weekends kind of scalping type of situation. We'll have finish the week. I might not hit, you know, my projection of being less than 20 whatever percent it was for the, you know, month, and I'm okay with that, because we might have, you know, further bleed down, but I do think it goes down some. But then at least we get kind of a fresh month next week, right? And if it plays out that way. So that's what I'm seeing for the 4-hour. Most likely, if it does get below 80, we get to that 88 to 90, maybe even down to 86, 87, 88, 90, then we'll start a sell session here, and we'll see how long that lasts for in the 4-hour. The daily, we finally got out of the sell pressure on the daily. So that's another thing that kind of, you know, ruins the mood a little bit here, is we finally got out of the sell pressure I've been waiting on for a while, right? Like the beginning of this month. And if you go back here, it's really been going on since the beginning of October. Yeah, we had this little buy session that didn't really last too long. First 3 days strong, and then it really just fell off after that. So what happens here? Do we get something similar to this? I don't think so. You know, today's kind of back and forth could just be, you know, dampening a little bit of our start of this buy pressure session on the daily chart. But, you know, say that like we get a little bit back and forth, but then we get aggressive in December, right? Then this could really jump up here. But I'm just glad that we actually got out of the sell pressure, at least, you know, for a couple days here, and we'll see how long this can extend out. So Bitcoin's really looking at today, you know, is this going to be more of like a fake out to the downside? I would think so. But, you know, I don't put anything past Bitcoin right now. So I'm still taking it day by day, right? But we are fighting here. We just got back over 91 as well. So I would say don't freak out about this. Let's give it till Sunday, see how the weekly close ends, and see how we start December. Because I got to say, you know, if we're going to have any, you know, bullishness, it's most likely going to happen in December. All right, taking a look at Ethereum here. Ethereum following Bitcoin, right? Just got out of the, it's not as bad though. And on Bitcoin's hourly chart, we're, you know, strong into the sell pressure. With Ethereum, we have a little bit. It's a little baby one right here, right? So we'll see if Ethereum maybe decides, I ain't gonna follow you this time and want to do my own thing, because that could be a sign of things to come for some of these alts. So looking pretty good on the hour. We'll see if Bitcoin bleeds out aggressively, and then how does Ethereum respond to that? That's going to be something important to watch. The 4-hour does look like you want to close up though, so that's similar to Bitcoin. And then the daily is looking pretty good for ETH, right? We're a little bit of a head front run Bitcoin here. So, you know, I'm hoping this is more of a fake out to the downside. Even if we, you know, touch down to 88 or something like that, can very quickly bounce back. It is Friday though, so heading into tomorrow, probably wouldn't expect something like that, a quick bounce back. But again, not really tripping until we see what happens on Sunday. Sunday's going to be big, and then also even wait till next week, the first week of December. I know that you're in the camp a little bit. Maybe that'll be a slower. I think that we started off pretty strong, but we'll see. And then last thing here really quick is crypto bubbles really just flipped. It was a little bit more green, and now we're seeing about an 80%, I would say 90% to 10% pull back to pull up, right? Some of these that are like the privacy still getting, you know, pummeled. You see Zcash down 8%, Dash down 9%. Aptos has pulled back about 8% there. Some of the stuff that is strong is MakerDAO up 8%. Quant is up 10%. So maybe some updates with the RWA side of what they got going on over there. You got Meme Core up 3.5% there. XMR, one of the only privacy coins that is seeing green today, up 3.3%. And then you got some of these meme tokens, Trump up or down, I should say, 3% there. And then we got what else we have? XRP is pulled that back 1%, so not too bad there. 1% is kind of a lot for XRP though, and you see Doge pulling back 1.5%, and then Pump pulling back 1.8% there. And then looking at the top 200 here, seeing so Merlin definitely had a crazy week. You know, we saw it up 50 cents and then back to like 20, and now we're kind of settling. You know, I feel good that it's finding its footing here at 35 cents. So it's up 17% there. You're seeing Pepe up about 11%. Turbo, man, haven't really heard much about Turbo in a long time. This is a meme
How does
coin
that happen? Yeah,
I don't know, man. It's the first AI written smart contract. It was on Arbitrum, up manipulated is how that happens. 48%. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah. So and you see stuff like Plasma pulling up 4% here. But that is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the alt markets for you guys. You know, we had a past couple good days for Bitcoin. I'm not surprised with this pullback today. I think it's okay.
Yep. Let's get into the next thing here, which is roll call. Dude, I'm still having an issue with this damn thing. I don't know how to fix it. Like, I keep getting this damn error code thing on the first thing. I don't know, but I can't add it.
What does it say? It says try reloading as the first step. Okay.
I'll try to fix it later, but I'm definitely going to add you on here. I think it's Lackey Lukey one. Shout out to Lackey Lukey, my guy. Appreciate you, my friend. Yeah. Once this is up, I know Hydrosapien won twice last week and Lackey Lukey won this week. So I'll make sure I get this up. I never had this issue before, so it's really weird. But I'll definitely look into getting that fixed and get my damn data back. That's what sucks about using Google Charts is like I can lose this. I don't want to lose this paper because obviously we know who won. But yeah, 100%. Shout out to Arita. Taxes are only needed as burn. The government creates money as it spends, and then taxes drain it later. Yeah, that's kind of what I've been hearing too about people. A lot of the people who've been kind of in the TradFi world for a while, they're basically saying, "Hey, taxes are bullshit. Like they don't even pay anything really. It's just a
control thing."
Needed to, yeah, basically. Shout out to Lackey Lukey. First is first again. Webdro is here. Shout out to Webdro. ASAP Benji, my guy, Tim Baker. Bitcoin is Truth is here. Abstract. So do you think Abstract has an opportunity like over there right now? I don't feel like there's an opportunity anymore. I feel like Abstract is, because they have so many chains that launched on top of Abstract. Like, you know what I mean? On a sense,
so many chains that afterwards.
Yeah, that are just like launched basically like on top of it in the sense of just like, it's just so far buried down now, where it's just like there's so many other places to trade, and it's not even a fast experience either, right? Like it's been a while since the trades over there.
Yeah,
The airdrop could help though.
It doesn't have enough volume for GMGN to add it to.
Gotcha.
So in that case, but that could be good for people that like to hold, because if you start chipping away at some of those market caps, they can get kind of big. You saw Appster get to 60 million. I think they do have an opportunity. I'll never count Luca Nets out.
Yeah,
an airdrop is something that would definitely help that. But I think more than anything, let's see what happens when QT stops and we start to go into if it happens quick, if we go into QE or if we get into a liquidity situation, because we're going to learn a lot about kind of how much of a difference that will make.
The problem is, though, I just think we're just months away from QE. Like, I don't think QE starts until we get a new Fed chairman. I can't see Jerome Powell doing it on his way out. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem something that he would do. Chips and Dip is here. Satoshi Nakamoto, Vader Time. And then we have Peer Trade Fi. Mice Elf is here. Shout out to Mice Elf. Paula is here today. Jason is here today. Myself again. Toast is here. Shout out to Toast. Appreciate you, my friend. Smug Toshi is here. My guy, Patty Poo, the Bitcoin machine himself. Stan says, any opinion on Aster's UX? Thanks. I think Aster's UX is phenomenal. I mean, I've never used it. I never deposited any money, but from the outside looking in, I mean, it looks like,
I have heard that. I have heard that people prefer Hyperliquid to it. Like, I don't know if there's like any bitterness or anything, but James Wynn actually said that. He said, Hyperliquid does have a better UI and experience. And that was after he was like glazing CZ for like 2 months and all that stuff.
Yeah. Stan says money from Venezuela. What?
That's just everywhere.
Oh, I got you.
You had to pay like 1,000 notes for milk and stuff. Crazy.
People were dumping out wheelbarrows full of money, and they were just taking the wheelbarrow and leaving the money. Shout out to Superfan. That's a true thing that was happening. You need a wheelbarrow to go to the supermarket full of cash. Superfan says, I went to a crypto investor. Okay, we read that one already. Myself says taxation is theft, 100%, dude. And that's one thing that's insane about the United States. We fought in a war because they taxed our tea, right? And then we're just okay with 49% tax on every trade that we do. Like what? Like when did we become such pussies? Like, we need to step up, honestly. I don't know. Ugh. But yeah, let's move along here. That's some more stuff here. Okay. So the Fed decision in December is looking very strong. This is another thing that markets are looking forward to right now. It is getting baked in. I do think this is why Bitcoin did bounce back up to 92 and kind of let that low pullback. But we're seeing an 87% chance of a 25%, and this could probably get into the 90s as we get closer and closer, which pretty much it's baked in. Like Jerome Powell does not, shake markets at all. He does exactly what markets are looking at. This has been right every single time when it gets to 80%. So it is looking like we're going to get a rate cut. But my question for you is that baked in? Do you think this December rate cut at this point is baked in? We did see one of the big reasons we fell apart, a couple weeks ago was because he came out and said it shouldn't be baked in. But is it baked in? I guess my question is.
I think that some of the thrust up was a little bit of a benefit from this as well, for Bitcoin to get back to over 90. But at this point, I do feel like it's baked in, right? So it's going to be more of kind of having a continuation of momentum for Bitcoin. But I don't think there's going to be more effect directly from this because, like you mentioned, once you get to 8%, it's a lot. If Polymarket's wrong here, it would surprise, I think, 95% of people that pay attention to this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And the next cut, if we do get next cut, is about 48 days later in January. And this is looking like it's going to be a don't change. I think everyone's kind of baking this in right now. So that's kind of a good thing. if they weren't baking January's cut as a no change or a non-cut, then I would be a little worried. But so now, like when he speaks on the 10th, no one's going to be like thinking, okay, worst case scenario is we don't cut in January. Everyone wanted 3 cuts this year, and we're going to get all 3 cuts. So now we can kind of start thinking, okay, he's not going to do anything in January. He's not going to do anything in March. He's probably not going to do anything in April. And then the new Fed chairman takes over in May, and then potentially have another 3-month rate cutting cycle, getting us into the 2s potentially.
Yeah, and like that. So how do you feel about that, by the way? Just being very, I guess, like not cutting at all in the beginning of the year, right? And then having to wait really 4 months. Could that stall, things in the alt market, even more?
No, I don't, because I do believe that everyone will be gearing up for a big spring. I think everyone will be in the mindset like, okay, new Fed
Buy
chairman.
now for the spring.
Exactly. Do it. And then I think a lot of people, what's going to happen is, they're going to be selling a lot of their traditional finance stuff to kind of get more risk on in January, because, the taxes will be pushed to the following April, right? They'll be pushed, 18 months in advance instead of paying it in April. So I do think a lot of these TradFi guys do not want to sell anything until January. And then potentially, I think January gets very risk on, in the sense of the markets being forward looking and being like, okay, I mean, in May, we're going to be in quantitative easing. We're going to be in another rate cutting cycle. May is going to be absolutely awesome. And then May ends up being a buy the rumor, sell the news.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to rush to May, because, I mean, the Fed chair hasn't been good for the R space this year, right? But I feel like he hasn't been because he doesn't, people could say, well, he's not supposed to rush into risk on and all these things. I agree with that. But whatever's happened this year has been completely different than the past 2 post-halving years in terms of liquidity availability. And whether that means that it's the business cycle being extended 1 year because of COVID, we're going to find out, obviously, next year. But things are different, and we're still learning of how this new perspective of our space from the legacy system and what the system is going to be, how it's going to dictate things for our space, right? Because as of right now, it's just like not wanting anything to do with even like a lot of mid caps and stuff like that, just because they feel like it's too risky.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point, right? When you're in Google and you're up 16% in 2 months, like why would you want to get more risky, right? Like we got to give them a reason. I do think a January sell off when it comes to a lot, maybe for like a lot of these S&P 500 stocks into the Russell. I think that could be a huge sign for risk on. I'm actually excited for that. I'm actually thinking that's going to happen here. But I also think Jerome Powell did an amazing job. I feel like Jerome Powell has 2 jobs, right? It's his one job is to keep inflation, between 2 and 3%, and I think he's done that. And I think his other job is to not get us in a recession, right? So I feel like there's a fine line right there between those 2 things, inflation and recession, and I think he's done a really good job. And I think the next Fed chairman is not going to do a good job, and I do think by the end of Trump's 4-year term, inflation is going to be back to like 7-8%.
Yeah, so I think that there's the job description and then also reality as well. What I think when I say that, I think reality is that the Fed is very connected to the banking system, very connected to, they are a central bank. That's what the Fed is. They want to remain relevant and remain to do what they've always done, and that's to have control in a tight hold over the United States financial system. I mean, for them, they feel like they can make and break it, but they also are benefiting a lot from it. That's why it's a private institution. It's not it's what I mean? It's not a government public institution. And it's simple to say this is, the 2 jobs that we do, and it's simple to create metrics to make them be able to hit those or not, right? In terms of making those metrics, not saying making up metrics, I'm saying making those metrics the importance to the public, right? And all these things. And so one thing I do feel deep down in my gut is that they don't like what's happening with the digital asset space, and the Fed is a part of that they don't like, and because they are a part of the banking system.
Yeah, but the Fed can only do 3 things. Like they can
To
only,
us,
you know what I mean? Like
like
no, they can only do 3 things. Like
to the
they have
service.
3 power. They have 3 powers. I mean, their words is one. Their words is one, right? They can say things and stuff like that, and they can, you know, they do interest rates, and they're able to print money. Like that's the 3 things they can do. They can't do anything else.
Yeah, sure. But if you think that, you know, their objective is only those 3 things, and you know, there's like goals and objectives that they have behind the scenes that those 3 things can affect
behind the scenes. So like
make sure that a
But-
new financial system isn't going to overtake them and make them less relevant over time.
What does that mean though? Make sure, like, what can they possibly do?
Not give the markets power, not give the markets liquidity, not make the masses not believe in this new system.
So not drop rates to a certain level and not start quantitative easing earlier.
Or just, you know, not having liquidity, making liquidity accessible as well. I mean, like we said, this is a different year compared to the previous 2 post-halving years, right?
So what would you do differently as a Fed? Would you say,
I'm not saying,
we're fine
I'm
at
not
3%? I'm just asking. At 3,
what I'm saying is this.
Inflation?
What I'm saying is this, is that they aren't going along with like a new system the way that, you know, this new administration wants them to. And it has to do with the banking system having control over the United States money down to the everyday citizen, right? To like the new banking system doesn't want this, or the old banking system doesn't want what we're bringing to the table, right? They don't want it, and the only way that they're going to have it is if they continually have full control over it, right? So having the masses not believe in our space as much as possible until they gain full control, in my opinion, is probably one of the largest objectives that they all have together.
I think you're giving them too much credit. In that sense, they've
giving them too much credit. Like,
I think
you don't think these guys are good at what
they can't do anything. No, but the Federal Reserve cannot do much. Right. So, like, so if you were Federal, like, how would you do this, knowing the power that they have, right? The tools that they have. Would you be okay with 3% inflation where we're at now, and say, okay, let's turn the money printers on and potentially fight 4%?
I would do if I was
right
them.
Now they're fighting 2 and 3%.
If
would
I
you be
was
okay
them,
with fighting 3 and 4?
If I was them, I would be doing exactly what they are doing, and that's fighting, kind of not making the transition easy necessarily for the masses and for the natives that have been in the space. I'm just telling you my opinion. I'm just telling you my opinion.
But how though? Like, what are they doing to stop? Like, what?
Okay, okay. Just one thing I'll say is, before this new administration came in, the Fed made it required to all banks that were a part under the FDIC, I should say, gave them a memo saying that, like, anybody, you can't talk about digital assets, you can't do these things, like basically just constantly adding friction, right? And until this new administration came in and said, hey, we're going to write bills the left and right. You think they like that? Yeah. They absolutely hate those bills.
It doesn't matter. They can't do anything about them.
But what I'm trying to tell you is their mindset, right? And Stan made a good point. He says that's why Coinbase wants a banking license, is probably because he knows that they're not going to go away.
No, 100%. Yeah, I just don't. From my understanding, the Fed can't do much. Like, they can't do much.
I think the Fed is one of the most powerful entities in this world.
I disagree. I mean, I don't know. We can debate on this another day. Lighter has flipped Hyperliquid in 24-hour DEX volume, hitting 9.41 versus Hyperliquid's 4 billion. Pretty insane numbers when you come to think about it, because here's the chart here. Lighter, where is Hyperliquid? Oh, okay, I see. So I had the same problem earlier when I was looking for Hyperliquid. You can't look down here. You have to look up here at the symbols. But yeah, Lighter is just killing Hyperliquid. Absolutely insane. And then you got Edge X right here, and I think that's Aster.
Where's Aster?
The symbols are so weird on this chart. But remember, Aster was like on number 1. What is Lighter doing, do you think? Do you think it's just people that are just airdrop hunting?
I think that that's what I think. It's some sort of incentive. They're doing some sort of incentive situation. It's the only explanation I can have. I could be wrong, because I'm speculating. But for them to get that big of a thrust up there has to be some sort of incentive mechanism for users to come on, farming points, no fees, something. But I don't think, Jeff and Hyperliquid are worried. They've been here before. They were here whenever Aster took the spotlight, and they said, that's fine, go ahead. We're still making this much every month in revenue, and we have plans to expand the chain with apps and all these things. We don't need to be in all that mess of competition drama, right? So I think that's what I'm sure their mindset is. But for Lighter, obviously this is good, right? And it's almost kind of like it's like our turn. Maybe they announced some sort of incentive or something. But yeah, now if this is going to be sustained after 3 months, then something is changed big time.
Yeah, 100%. This kind of reminds me of when PumpFun took second place while Bonk was running. It was like only a matter of time before it goes back to the leader here, and now we're seeing PumpFun at 99%. Right? I do think that happens again. I think these exchanges are nice, and I think they're just they're good for airdrops. But I think once their airdrop happens and the token just starts getting dumped like crazy, because unless they go about buying the token back and stuff like that. But when your fees are dropping and dropping and dropping, and there is no fees technically, how are you going to be able to buy back and burn the token and stuff like that, right? So it's like I feel like you're about to see Hyperliquid take number one again, but it's still kind of cool to see and kind of mentally kind of visualize what could happen in the future.
Yeah, and then they're doing the options product as well, right? That we talked about. So I think Hyperliquid is doing, or there's a project that's building on top of them for that. I think they're actually thinking about like dominating that type of part of the market, perps and options. Man, imagine if they have a dominating consumer base on the option side. Hyperliquid could be one of the largest companies in the world eventually, if they continually dominate. Obviously I think they're probably 5-10 years away from being able to have that type of it'd be hard to pass like Nvidia and those types, but still they at least in our space.
The foundation, I mean, the token holders technically own the company in a way, right? In a sense, because you have governance voting and stuff like that. So I mean that could be a token that is just eaten up, dude, over the course of the next couple of years for sure, especially as we get friendlier and friendlier into the crypto stuff. So all right, so my last thing before Jake hops in is with Spark launching next week, are runes officially dead? I mean, if you I mean, honestly, dude, I mean, it's been a really, really tough 30 days for runes, right? That's the ordinals, but for runes too. You're seeing it really just get beaten down in certain time. You are seeing it up on the 7-day, which is a little shocking to me. So maybe not. What do you think? Do you think runes can now survive with a new token, BTKN tokens?
I think that every time that people write them off, they have some sort of bounce back at some point. This has probably been the longest, the entire market's like struggling, right? I mean, you have Fartcoin at 35 cents, 34 cents. It was at $1.24 in the summer. People are beating down dog and runes, but like, man, the entire market is just getting beat up left and right. So runes already has some friction in terms of trading. So of course they're going to show a little bit more of getting beat down. But it was funny because you saw, Jacob Brown come out and have almost kind of like this farewell, or just kind of can we let runes die or type of situation. Like I said though, every time you write it off, same thing with the ordinals, there's a moment where it can come back, and it does. It's been a long time since we've seen energy like that though. But again, the market will have to change for it to have that opportunity.
I mean, you're right? So the last big resurgence, I guess, was in July and August, right? When we saw the Kraken listings, and then the MIM was posted by Coinbase, and the MIM went to 90 million and stuff like that. So we did see a huge surge there, but I do feel like 60 to 70% of the people who hold these tokens will be trading next week in the Spark ecosystem. Do you agree with that? Do you think of most of the community members that are in runes right now? I'm not saying the maxi, the L1 maxi guys, right? I just mean like the people who actually are in these things because they want to make money, not because they're on L1. You're probably going to see like 60% of them actually trading some of these Spark tokens.
Yeah, I don't understand the Owen Maxey's philosophy at all, or thesis, because they're being called shitcoiners from the BTC
Yeah.
maxis. So it's like you're just gonna layer this. You know what I mean? So you feel like you're better than the
I
people
know.
that use layer 2 scaling solutions or other ecosystems. They feel like they're better than you. Then who are you? You know what I mean? But to answer your question, I think majority will be that have any type of want for an opportunity to make money, in the short term. And that's what I think Spark is probably going to be, a play that can be a finish the year type of situation. I was a little bit worried about Monad stealing the attention economy away from them a bit. But then recently, I just feel like it's kind of the liquidity has stopped bridging over there necessarily, and they can still thrive while Spark does too, because two different ecosystems completely. But yeah, to answer your question, I do think that there's going to be people that play in runes over there. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you said the biggest problem with Monad, there's no Chinese, right? I mean, there's probably some, but it's a Monad token is
There's
not on
no- yeah.
Binance. It's not on OKX, right? Because they refuse to pay the listing fees, which I love. I love that, by the way. But
I know.
it
I was
also
about to say,
doesn't
like,
get
I can't
the
be mad
Chinese
about
involved.
that.
No, I know, but the Chinese don't get involved because of that reason, right? And we do know that Chinese don't mess with runes. But they love Odin farms.
runes.
They love the Odin runes, but none of them are buying dog over there, right? It's just like they're
Yeah.
buying crypto
New
burger and stuff like
opportunities.
that. So I feel like Spark does open up a lot of opportunities in the sense of the Bitcoin guys actually. If there's a $20 million runner, are we going to see liquidity like leaving Billy and Mim and stuff like that, seeing these kind of drop to kind of chase that?
Yeah, I think some. I mean, Billy's
Yeah.
already down to 4 million, so maybe it gets to like 2.5. Dog will probably stay above 100 mil.
Yeah.
But maybe look, he's still not easy to sell those, right? Like, I mean, I guess you could use the liquidity pools on .swap and stuff like that, right? So I expect some of that probably to come out of there. But sure. But one thing I will say, I disagree a little bit with you on. I don't think you have to rely on CZ and Binance for the Chinese community, though. And the reason why I say that is if you have a strong rollout marketing plan, which I think Spark does, they have a separate Spark Chinese X account. They have a plan, we heard, to approach the East, right? Then you can have something like Odin.fun, which they leveraged BeLife, which had those connections, right? So you don't have to, just because you don't have Binance doesn't mean that they won't come. Actually, there's probably groups that don't even like Binance in the East, right? And they're looking for opportunities. So I think Spark has that big opportunity. And that is a big differentiator between, I think Monad made a big mistake by not having that separate marketing, because they probably thought, like what you said, we're not going to get into Binance, so that's going to be hard. No, create a separate, completely Chinese marketing approach, Eastern marketing approach, the Asian area. Because I'll tell you what, man, if you have both West and East that are, communities that are growing there, that is way stronger than just having one side. And if you're going to have just one side, I would probably get the East, because you see something like Crypto Burger actually at the all-time high that we saw was $500 million, right? In a small ecosystem, mind you, right? So I'm excited about next week, but yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree. I'm looking forward to it as well. All right, let's get into our next segment here. So every Friday, we're lucky enough to have Hanging with Hustle. We got the great Jake Gallen joining us today. If you guys don't know what's happening over there with Emblem Vault, with Agent Hustle and Migrate.fun, you guys are not really understanding the markets right now. And it's kind of seeing this dead zone in the markets. It actually opens up so much opportunity for something like Migrate.fun. We are about to see the biggest migration event that has ever happened in the next 2 weeks, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. And you're going to see so many charts go to zero, and then so many charts go from 0 to, I don't know, 10 million, 20 million. It's going to be absolutely awesome to see, and we're going to dig into this right now. So without further ado, let's bring in the great Jake Gallen. Jake, welcome back to OnChain Revolution. Thanks for being here, man.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Did you guys eat a lot of pie or what?
Got some good chocolate pie. Did you eat pie, Shizzy?
I had berry pie for the first time. It was phenomenal. I never had it before. It was like all these mixed berries. It was really good.
Oh, interesting.
that, so I can get away with that.
I'm curious, Jake. You know, Shizzy said in your intro, you know, you're going to see a lot of coins go to zero, and then you're going to see them like, you know, just skyrocket on the migration. And then when I heard that, I just instantaneously thought about like all of the social media farmers that like will post those and be like, "Oh my god!" In my mind, I was like, "Should I be doing that?" Because they get so much engagement. But does that get on your nerves as like the CEO of the company to see these large accounts that have 30,000, 50,000 followers be like, "What happened?" when they know what happened?
No, I think it's actually bullish. It brings attention to the token itself because generally people are posting underneath it like, no, idiot, it's a migration, blah, blah, blah. But then all of that person's followers then go into the comments to see what's going on. Then they see it's a migration. Then they find the token. Then they find MigrateFun. And we see it happen every single time. We knew building this platform that there was going to be a lot of pushback. Obviously, we saw a lot of that in the very beginning and not as much recently, but you still have the engagement farmers who are going to say these projects rugged. And it's actually kind of funny because right before this, I was on a show with Pyro, who's one of our migrating teams, and I was going through the methodology of what's going to happen with these upcoming migrations, because we are using a different method this time, right? Because to migrate, when we are migrating to PumpFun and to Radium, we're migrating directly to the AMM and skipping the bonding curve. But with PumpFun, it's not possible. We tried to push for it many times, but ultimately they said their architecture doesn't allow for it. So we have to go through the bonding curve. So if you think of the sequence of events, it's going to happen. We know that most migrations happen in the first 24 hours and the last 24 hours. And sometimes if there's enough participation, you see something called a migration squeeze, where it's like in the last 48 hours, 24 hours, you see this gigantic candle upwards because most of the supply is locked. And so you'll see sometimes, we've seen upwards of 200% candles in the last 24 hours. So you'll see this upward candle movement, and then you'll see the sell-off. And then with the PumpFun migrations, you take all of that Solana and you're putting it through the bonding curve to then get up to the market cap that's targeted. So then you just see gigantic green candle upwards before anyone could even claim. And then on top of that, you're going to have all these bots that are going in and buying on top of that, because the bots don't know it's a migration. The bots are just see it as a green candle up, so they see it as bullish momentum, so they're going to buy. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see that 48-hour period between the last 24 hours of the migration and then going through the PumpFun bonding curve and seeing kind of how that all plays out. Yeah, really, really exciting times. And man, if we execute this properly, then I think it's just going to lead to an enormous amount of demand for the product itself.
Yeah, for sure. And this being the biggest migration event in history, I mean, there's never been anything. I actually looked into it. There's never been anything like this before. It's pretty wild. What are you expecting from that sense of just, how many teams is it and everything? It's
23
incredible.
teams, 23 teams migrating. We might end up actually doing another migration group at the end of the month, because there's teams who miss this group who are going to PumpFun. There's teams that want to go to Radium. We've been getting some requests for Meteora. There's some teams that want to go to PumpFun. So we're trying to organize that. So it might be like the end of the month or maybe beginning of January for those teams. But yeah, it's about 4 to 5 million in liquidity. This is after the market is sold off. At one point it was like 20 million in liquidity, but some teams have decided to wait. We've started talking with all these exchanges. This is the most strenuous part of it. And all these exchanges have different rules and demands. I was on a call with Binance at midnight, like a day or two ago, trying to talk through their policies and procedures. So it's a lot of work. But I'm excited. We actually shared with the team. So December 9th is when it's starting. We're going to post the date next week from the MigrateFun accounts. It's holiday weekend, so anything being posted is just not going to see that much attention. But we're letting the teams go ahead and share within their communities. I've learned through now 3 years of product launches, never launch a product on Monday. So you got to do it on a Tuesday. And yeah, it's going to be exciting. 23 teams. We've seen they're going to go anywhere from, I think, 7 days to 2 weeks. This seems to be the majority of the time period. So most of them will be ending before Christmas. And yeah, Pump's excited. We're excited. We've been testing this new methodology. I've learned a lot about sniping over the past few weeks and how that whole ecosystem works on Solana. And yeah, as long as we execute, man, there's 3 million Solana locked in Pump liquidity pools. So there is an enormous amount of volume and value that can be unlocked once the right amount of people see this new product.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big step for sure. Obviously, you know, Pump is the largest brand across all of crypto in terms of meme coin launchpads. Shizzy and I were looking at the dominance today, actually, and I put my conspiracy hat on. I was like, this has to be orchestrated. I mean, you're looking at the number one PumpFun doing 559 million, 100 million in volume, and number two being Bonk doing 3.4 million. And so that's so wild how crazy the, you know, number one to number two is. Yeah. So are they just you feel like they're just dominating like the KOL networks and all that stuff? Is that what you think it is? Or do you think this is kind of just their brand power?
Well, you think Pump had basically a 1.5 year head start on everyone. I do suspect Bonk will catch up a little bit once their Kick partnership launches, if that's still happening, once they get into the streaming world. Because once you start aligning those brands between Bonk and Kick and World Liberty Fi, you know, maybe it brings attention, maybe it doesn't. But Pump, as we know, first movers generally have a pretty big advantage, right? Through the Lindy effect, the Pump wrote the playbook, right? And they're just continually innovating and changing the playbook and setting new narratives. They're leaning into ICM. They weren't the first to lean into ICM, right? They didn't create the ICM labeling, right? That was Believe, I believe. And then Bonk leaned into ICM. So now Pump is kind of late to the party here, but they have that brand power. They have that attention. And honestly, they have that user behavior. There's a lot of people who've been trading on PumpFun for almost 2 years now at this point, since they launched. And I've learned personally that when we launch Emblem markets, it is really hard to get people off of OpenSea because they've just become so accustomed to using it that they don't want to change. And so I think that user behavior and lock-in is really, really important. And now PumpFun has resources. They have $2 billion, right, to go point at whatever they do. They still continue to command about $1 million in revenue per day, right? That goes into buybacks or whatever they want to do it. So they have a lot of resources. And just from my conversations with Alon and the Pump team, they seem quite committed to this. I don't think they would be sending us business as a third party if they didn't fully believe in what they were doing in ICM, right? So I don't know that many partnerships that Pump, you know, establishes himself with. And I'm not saying that we're a partnership, but they've been sending us literally all of their business. So, you know, call it whatever you want. But I don't think that they would do that if they weren't convinced themselves that they were ready to dominate the market. And so for us, you know, we're a third party platform. Our focus is the clients, right? The teams. And right now teams want to migrate to PumpFun. So we're going to help them migrate to PumpFun. If teams want to go wherever they want, some teams that reach out to us, they don't want to go to PumpFun. They want to go to Radium or they want to go to Meteor or whatever. But PumpFun does seem like they have the attention. That is no doubt in their mind. They have the resources. There's no doubt there. They're going to have to execute on ICM just as like MigrateFun's going to have to execute on the migrations.
Yeah. And these teams that are migrating on the 9th, will they be able to do the stream as stuff as well? So when they're on Pump, they're going to be able to do everything.
Yeah. So basically how the system works, and I'll try to explain it without getting too deep into the technicals. We are using the PumpFun SDK. So everything that's created is running through their system. This is why Pump forced us to use the SDK and not migrate straight to Pump Swap. I guess their system, you have to go through the bonding curve. So once these projects launch, they will be immediately bonded because we're buying out the bonding curve, plus using a variety of technical implementations to prevent snipers from coming in. And you're basically then taking the excess Solana that's recovered from the old pool, buying out the bonding curve plus buying out in excessive amounts to the targeted market cap of the previous token. And once that's done, you know, they'll open up the claims for everyone to come claim those tokens, and they will have immediate access to those creator awards in the PumpFun creator system, as well as all of the features that PumpFun offers, from the streaming services, the creator awards, and whatever else is really to come. I don't know where their connection is with the trading terminal that they just acquired in KOL Scan, but Pump sends us a lot of the projects. Obviously, a lot of them want to leave Believe at this time, right? And it's kind of funny that the Believe migration was kind of the death of the product itself. But you know, you have to execute it right, or else, you know, it is ultimately a fail. That's why there is a lot of pressure on us to execute. But you know, we're very confident in being able to do it, and a lot of people want to be in Pump because they know that they're very serious and that they're going to continue to add features to this ecosystem. Like they just added a trading terminal, right? They changed the creator awards to focus on ICM. We don't know. They don't tell us what their marketing strategy is, probably for the better, to be honest. We just communicate with them on the technicals and the onboarding of the team. And we're going to have a conversation with them next week around the migration event itself. And, you know, we'll kind of see where it goes. But yeah, every team that migrates to PumpFun, you get the same exact features that everyone else does.
I wonder how many teams you have lined up from the Believe ecosystem, because, you know,
there's like 12, I think 12 or 13.
Okay.
So it's like half of this group.
Okay. And I'm sure you're going to have more, because I mean, looking at that chart, I think Believe did like $3,000 or something crazy in volume. And, you know, obviously it starts with leadership. I totally believe that. Right. And, you know, Pasternak obviously pivoting into something else. No shocker, honestly, from my side, because I did dabble over there, and I'm not trying to take shots, even though I did try to take shots, and I did. Okay. But with that being said, I imagine there's a couple of good teams over there, you know, that actually were building. Kled is one of them. I'm surprised they haven't reached out to you guys yet, because they actually have a solid market cap and business model there. Do you expect them to continually line up? Because at this point, it might just dissipate eventually. And how are they going to, you know, continue business?
So Meteor has been supporting them, where Meteor essentially is just changing the tag on the back end from Believe to Meteora. The liquidity still remains locked because that is an on-chain function. But because Believe is a centralized product, right, they have this ability to change different things on the back end. So Meteor has just gone in and claimed migration, but it's not a migration. It's just simply changing the fees, I believe, to the team instead of to Believe. And I think that's why their $3,000 is changed. It seems like he's kind of just thrown in the towel without even saying it. Maybe the migrations, the people moving to Meteora or the people that are moving to PumpFun here has kind of signaled to him that he's kind of giving up, especially with that recent post. But, you know, neither here nor there. We're here to support teams. We've talked with probably 20 Believe teams, ended up with about 12 or 13, and a handful of them went over to Meteora. But again, that liquidity is still locked. If they want to migrate to Pump, or if they want to migrate to another a Radium pool or BonkFun or another Meteora pool, they are, you know, fully able to do so. So we're going to continue to build different integrations throughout the year. As we've been talking with other Launchpads and AMMs, we want to offer the full suite of AMMs, at the very least. Launchpads are just much more difficult to build integration points into. It takes a lot of business development. It takes a lot of engineering to do. But these platforms like, you know, Meteora, Radium, Orca, they have open source SDKs that are just easy to add. Whereas some of the other ones, it takes the other team to participate. And unfortunately, some of the conversations we've had with some of these founders, they're somewhat resistant towards us. Maybe they see us as like controversial, or they see us as competition, or whatever it is. You know, that's up to them to decide. But we're just here to support the customers, and wherever they want to go, we're going to take them. And if we have partners that are willing to work with us, you know, we're willing to work with them and create a symbiotic relationship that, you know, brings business to their platform. So we just want to create a situation where everyone wins.
Yeah, and that's all you guys are doing, right? You're helping people that want to be helped, and if nobody wants to be helped, then you're obviously doing a great job, right? When it comes to the Launchpad and stuff like that, right? But earlier you mentioned, you really took a deep dive into sniping and stuff like that. I'm curious, is there anything that surprised you while you're taking that deep dive? Is there anything different that maybe you didn't know before?
Yeah, a lot of these sniping sniping systems are much more than sniping. There is actually like a coordinated
Bundling.
botnet, but not just bundling. So recently, we were testing the PumpFun migration tool, and we had launched it with and without the sniper protection. And when I say sniper protection, it's like a variety of technical tools we use to ensure that snipers can't get into that transaction. And when we did it without, it was definitely sniped for sure. A portion of it, not the whole thing, but a portion. But the interesting thing that I saw is that when we had done it, there was a handful of accounts that I had never seen before enter our Telegram, the Hustle Telegram. We did it at night, so no one was really watching. And they were asking for this new CA that we'd launched and kind of claiming that there was like a new hustle token. So what we had come to realize is that these sniping networks actually have bot networks that monitor certain accounts and certain wallets. And then if they ever deploy a contract, they have bots in that Telegram to increase artificial hype to get other people to buy this token because they sniped it so that they could dump on everybody. So it's much more than just sniping on a technical level. They have coordinated bots across Twitter and Telegram and Discord to create artificial hype so that when they snipe it, other people buy into the eventual dump.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I wonder if like groups like Lazarus groups has like a department over there, and they're like, this is the sniper department, and obviously the bots have to sound human, right? And now I think about like arguing with some people in Telegram before, and I'm like, damn, was that a bot? He sounded legit. He's like, stop fudding and all this, blah, blah, right? And I'm like, oh my god, that could be a thing that, but. That was a great question, Shizzy, about the sniping, because I'm curious too. There's been projects. Monad just launched, and there's a big project over there that tried to avoid snipers. And speaking of snipers, are we talking about like just someone on Axiom, someone on GMGN's bot, or is it like a separate type of approach to that?
So these are usually these like FNF groups that you see popping up on Solana. These are generally like the teams who have built the technology for it. Most of it's customized. We actually talked with a few FNF groups as well to kind of understand.
FNF, can you?
I don't know what it stands for, but these you'll see like in people's handles, it says something FNF.
Gotcha.
That's generally like coordinated sniping groups. And there's actually like a wide variety of sniping tools that you can actually use on these different websites for just like the average retail user. So it is like a quite large market. And what we've come to find out is all of these things are very highly customized. This is what gave us confidence that we can actually do this, because if these teams are out here building these sniping tools, and obviously there's sniper protection mechanisms, and there's a few, depending on what chain you're on, whether it's EVM or Solana, they're different. Solana has this architecture that doesn't have nonces. So a nonces means it has to be one transaction after another in a coordinated way, right? That's what you see on MetaMask. But in Solana, you could bundle a lot of transactions in a single, a lot of executions in a single transaction. But there is a data limit that's on it, right? And then basically what you do then is
that's like rolling up like mini transactions.
Yeah. So basically how it works is like what most of the snipers do is they use multiple wallets to basically try to buy into this token that's launching on the bonding curve. They have to get in the bonding curve, or else it makes the snipe not as effective, because you're buying the token at market value. If you buy it on the bonding curve, then you're getting it at a much cheaper rate than everybody else. Right. So they try to get all of these transactions from different wallets bundled together. Usually it's using Jito bundle and like a private node service, but there's some other techniques as well. And they try to get it all into one, and then they try to disperse it. And then they use these different mixing services to try to mix the the wallet so that you can't track it on bubble maps. We're a little bit different though, right? Because we have to do it all from one wallet, because we have to get the tokens and then move it into the the vault and stuff. So we have these different techniques that we're using to, obfuscate and bundle and stuff like that to do. And we've tested it now a bunch of times, where if you have the sniper protection off, it clearly gets sniped every time. And then you have it turned on, even from that same wallet that we're testing from, and there's no snipers in it. So it's going to work. Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that those sniping groups are a big part of the issue why some of these tokens can't reach higher market caps?
It's like the main issue, yeah.
Like they just can't reach it because there's so many different wallets that are only there to take profit. There's no emotions. It's basically being triggered constantly.
FNF usually means friends and family in crypto sniping. On Twitter often means the follow for follow, mutual follow tag. So friends and family sniping, yeah. So it's been a pretty big lesson learning. These are very sophisticated networks. Obviously, sniping also happens on ETH. It just happens in a different way because you have these things called nonces. So you have to order the transactions one by one. Whereas on Solana, you could bundle a lot of them together, and then you're usually using Jito Bundle or one of the other MEV tools to then bundle those transactions on top of each other. So it's like you could have 10 to 15 executions in a transaction, and then you can put all of those transactions into a single Jito bundle to then ensure it. For us, it's unique because we have to buy out the bonding curve. But the cool part is, like, when you're deploying on PumpFun, the first transaction is the deployer itself. So for us, it's either the transaction goes through or it doesn't. So if the transaction doesn't go through, then nothing happens. But if it goes through, then you have to make sure that everything happens in its entirety. There's still a few things, obviously, that, there's always going to be ways around things. So you can't say anything's 100% certain in crypto because there's always new things that are being created, especially in the tech world. But yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I think if this executes properly and it's this very big attention event, no doubt there's probably going to be hundreds of teams who are going to want to run into this. And then especially in Q1, when the MigrateFun platform becomes public and it doesn't require these groups and for people to reach out to us manually, and you could just set up a migration in a permissionless way, I think that's when it really starts to get crazy because people are going to start using it for vampire attacks and different things like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be kind of cool to see too. Like when, Melania gets vampire attack or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's going to be definitely fun to see. So now that you've done already a couple migrations, right? You guys feel really comfortable with this. Obviously, there's a lot of new stuff going into this one. But what have you learned on this journey now to kind of make this one like flawless?
Yeah. I would say with there's a reason why a migration platform hasn't existed is because there's so many levels to it. In this last few weeks, we've basically built all these relationships with these centralized exchanges and have been taking a deep dive into all of how these centralized exchanges work. Some of them have a centralized model. There's a DEX model. There's a CDeFi model. I actually got on a call with a tier 1 exchange last week. And they had told us that they had been talking about MigrateFun because it intersects with 4 different departments of their exchange. And basically what we've learned is that they're forced to talk to us now because we're basically, MigrateFun's a controlled chaos in a sense. And because of that sell mechanism, their users get impacted in some ways. And so they can't just let that go. So now they're forced to talk to us and forced to work with us. So that is a pretty big leverage to hold, right? Because then you can use that in different ways. Obviously, we're not going to use it in a nefarious way. You want to use it to continue to promote the business and grow out the migration industry to, where we think it can go. But having these relationships with all these exchanges will present a lot of other unique business opportunities here in the future. But some of these exchanges, they have no idea how anything on-chain works. Some of them are actually quite sophisticated and understand. It's given me a ton of new respect for certain exchanges who actually understand what's going on-chain. So I do have a little bit more respect for some exchanges. Other ones are just completely predatory. And that's all the way up at the top as well. So it's unfortunate to see. But some of the other exchanges are Yeah, they're quite good in good teams. And so we're gonna have to build some third-party tools and APIs to try to automate the system and make it easier. We ran into a handful of new edge cases that were presented in the Pay AI migration, because as Pay AI was migrating, new exchanges were listing the token as the migration was happening. So it presented just all kinds of different unique situations. But I'm glad that we had that now and got that out of the way. And I would say another kind of learning experience is just more on kind of the builder side of things. I've gotten a lot hardened through the migration build out. This is definitely the most demanded product that I've ever built across any of businesses that I've been over my kind of 10-year entrepreneurial career. Especially in crypto, that's so fast moving. And it's taught me that the majority of teams, or I don't know if any team actually, maybe a handful, have the skills that the team of Emblem has to be able to pull off these unique type of products. I mean, we're literally a team of 9 that's had no venture capital funding or angel investors in 9 years. And we're now kind of surpassing, some of these competitors who have hundreds of millions of dollars in funding and 50 to 100 person teams. I mean, we're even talking with exchanges that are, multi 10 deca, $100 billion companies in valuation. And we're just a team of 9. And now they're forced to talk with us because we didn't give up and we knew the product that we had, and we didn't listen to all of this FUD, and we didn't listen to all of these people on the timeline saying different things. We knew what existed. And so, it just proves to me that in crypto, you could just build things, you could just do things and just cut out the FUD. And as long as you're not acting nefarious, then you can have a lot of success. And you do see a lot of people on the timeline, complaining that there's nothing new in crypto, but it's not. What you see on the timeline is just so the complete opposite of what is actually happening. And so if you have an idea, just continue to build it. Don't listen to anybody. And if you just stay the course and there's demand, double, triple, quadruple down in crypto, because there's so many avenues to build things. And MigrateFun has shown us that. Emblem Vault obviously was the first product in the history in the company to find a lot of product market success. And eventually a hustle will come third whenever kind of AI comes back around and people are ready to start using AI interfaces. That could be 2 months from now, it could be 2 years from now, who really knows? But if you have an idea and you have conviction in something, just continue to move forward and don't listen to anyone else.
So I agree with all that, but I think one of the things that really stuck out was taking advantage of the edge cases. And I'm sure that some of them were extremely tedious for you guys.
Still working on some of them.
Yeah, but you push through and you figure things out. Now, I'm sure at first, like working with centralized exchanges was a headache, right? And then once you realize, okay, well, this is kind of they need us, and we're going to be, good communicators with them and all these things. Let's just push through to get it past that stage. Whereas other people kind of saw what you guys were building, probably tried to copy it, and then I could see a lot of people getting stuck there and saying, "Oh, this is too much of a headache." But you guys pushed through, and that makes a difference, right? Especially if you are the trendsetter in terms of leading this new meta of migration. I'm curious. This is my last question about Migrate.fun. We can get into some of the other products here in a bit, but where do you see Migrate.fun in 2026? Let's say like the summer of 2026. Do you see kind of having a presence separately in BSC, having a presence separately in base, and then kind of doing internal migrations first before you guys do any cross chain? Is that a picture that you could see possible?
Yeah, so we're going to build where the demand is. It's still on Solana. It's probably going to continue to be on Solana. So it's basically get a migration pathway to all of the major places that people want to migrate to. We will go cross-chain. We've talked with all the base launchpads. From their perspective, migrations are still a new idea, and the launchpads haven't really taken off. The reason why is on base, most of the products are venture capital backed, so they didn't start on a launchpad, right? And so the launchpads are still kind of meme coins outside of just the AI. So demand is quite low for independent teams who launched through Launchpad that want to basically upgrade or change their circumstance. It's very, very low, although we want to do cross-chain. And then on BSC, the focus is just the token. It's less focus on the project and more focus on the tokens itself. Like talking with Binance, talking with BNB Foundation, talking with different teams on BSC, there is less of a prioritization on the product and more prioritization on the token. And that's from every single level. So therefore that makes migrations much tougher. I mean, you could get like meme coin migrations and stuff, but there isn't like this utility focus because the focus of BNB and Binance is tokens and not as much products and builders. And that's that's not taking a stab at them or anything. That's just where the culture is on it. But maybe migrations do take off there at some point in time. We'll go wherever the demand is. From the MigrateFun perspective, we'll have the SDK live here, I think next month. So anyone can build with MigrateFun. You want to host the migrations on your own website, you'll be able to do. You have some sort of unique idea with migrations, you'll be able to build with it. Expanding the product line, I think, is something that we've been internally discussing and adding. We've been building snapshot tools, airdrop tools. People have been asking about token vesting contracts and things like that. That's something that we should just offer in the experience itself, right? You could wrap it up as a hustle subscription. Is probably something that you'd want it to do, but a lot of people look for these things for airdrop tools and stuff like that. So we should just host it, as well as there are some other unique products that people have been showcasing us that would be good for migrations and other things like that. So I think adding or expanding the product line outside of migrations to other relevant items is something of interest, and then continuing to expand the brand and do more migrations. Right. I think our goal should probably be something like $5 million in liquidity a month. I think is something, of sufficiency. I think it's something that's quite doable. Some of the teams that have reached out to us recently are quite large brands, but there's still some hesitancy on the migrations itself because we haven't solidified everything. We haven't solidified all of the exchange relationships. They're still in progress, right? We haven't solidified all of the migration pathways to all of these different exchanges. And we still haven't gone through the PumpFun migration to show it's a proven model. So there's still, 5 or 6 kind of major steps that have to be accepted before it just becomes known that, hey, if you want to migrate, you just use this platform and you can do it in a permissionless way. And it's a proven model. I mean, look at all 3 of our last competitors who had announced a migration tool. None of them ever came to market. And then, the one that they did come to market ended up ending the company. So it's a very tough thing to do. And we're just fortunate to be in this situation, to have the skills and knowledge. And honestly, I'm just blessed to have a really, really solid and intelligent team. Everyone on the Emblem Vault team, from the developers to, the CEO, and everyone in between, just insane business development skills. Everyone possesses something that's truly unique. And I just don't think there's that many teams out there that would be able to do something like this. And so, yeah, we're just going to continue to expand. I think 2026 or December will probably be the breakout month if everything is executed properly. If Pump should bring a lot more attention. And then in Q1, we have some big migrations. Hopefully you start working your way down. You think of a future where we are just basically automated with all the exchanges. You could think of things like, hey, you do a migration and you automatically get a listing on XYZ exchange, right? Or you do a migration and you can bridge your token to XYZ chain, or, you migrate your token and, all of these other benefits that come into place. And so you could really package it in pretty well. And moving into 2026, I think that's going to be the goal because, and we'll probably get into this with like Agent Hustle, but we're using the last month of December or last month of 2025 to really kind of solidify all of our products, improve them, and be less expansive in the next month or two, more refinement, and then expand afterwards when we're ready, so that you can really take this up to the next level. And finally, the company can be in this like tier 1 kind of situation with all of these other major products. That's like where our goal is.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be a huge month for you guys in December. I'm actually excited for it. But like you guys aren't just building for yourselves, right? You're building also for the token holders, the people who believe in what you guys are doing with Agent Hustle. And I think that's the best part about crypto is like, people can, take, just believe in you and what you're building and get a part of that. And Agent Hustle isn't just a coin. It's it's a group of people that are building something that's pretty insane. And I think when people hear about Agent Hustle, they think only the agent, but they're not actually looking at the rest of it. How can you guys like make sure everyone understands that Emblem Vault, Agent Hustle, and MigrateFun are just one arm of the industry? Of what you guys are building?
It's probably the biggest challenge is how to make it very approachable for people to understand, right? Emblem Vault's a unique one-of-one product. MigrateFun is also a unique one-of-one product. And then Agent Hustle is in a new sector that's, that still hasn't really found its breakout kind of moment yet. It obviously had its first kind of meme coin hype, but from a product adoption standpoint, it still hasn't had that, oh shit, this is coming kind of thing. It's still a novelty for most people. So taking 3 products that are quite unheard of and trying to make it approachable is going to be interesting. I think Agent Hustle is going to be kind of eventually the entryway to the product line and eventually to being on chain. I was approaching we had this conversation in our Telegram multiple times of, is the Hustle token right? Should it be the Emblem token? Should it all be one brand? Should it be different brands? And that's a conversation we'll have in the future if the right point in time. But I will say this is when we do have this new SDK that's launched next month, we're going to be able to finally onboard developers to our ecosystem. And as you know, wherever the developers are building is where the money will flow. So if we can get people using the Emblem AI platform, and the Emblem AI platform is Hustle SDK, Emblem SDK, and MigrateFun SDK. You get people using the Emblem AI platform, and you get 5 to 10 developers using this stuff. There will be an enormous amount of attention that comes to it. Essentially, we're launching our own privy product. So, we're entering a market that just the company sold for like $300 million, right? And that's just one product line within, the wheelhouse. I joined Emblem, and the first thing I ever said was that it was $1 billion company. And so that's definitely the goal and the focus. There's going to be some pretty insane things that could be done with that SDK that we're going to encourage builders to use, but we're also going to build our own. Obviously, Agent Hustle is going to be the entry point for all of that. Emblem Vision, you hope at some point in time is merged into Agent Hustle. I don't know if you'll be able to merge MigrateFun into it or not, because it is a kind of complex program. But the merger of Emblem and Hustle will take place at some point in time. Hustle obviously being kind of the front. I like to say it's kind of like Hustle in the front, Emblem in the back, right? If it's like a mullet kind of situation. And yeah, with this SDK, what's coming is that you're going to be able to sign transactions with the vault itself. For developers, that's going to be quite eye-opening. Most people don't really understand what that means, but just imagine all of your vaults and wallets inside of your Hustle account can sign transactions. So I'll let some people speculate on that until later on, but that's something that doesn't exist anywhere. And that gives us a profound edge on everybody, literally every single company. There's no vaulting company that can do that. Not even Layer Zero, that's raised $200 million and has their own vaulting product. So I'll be excited to kind of share that. But with Agent Hustle, we're going to do one release in December with everything that we've created, and it is quite an immense amount. Here, you know what? I'll show you guys kind of what we're showing or what we're doing here.
I feel like Agent Hustle is a product that's just constantly being cooked up. You know what I mean? Which is great because it's like, you're not waiting for the AI product sector to get all the liquidity and attention. You guys are constantly improving it for when that happens, you guys will be considered one of the best products out there.
That's the goal. I mean, if you guys want to share my screen, I'll kind of show you what we're working on. And this will be all in one release. It's going to be, it's not fully polished yet. But you know, as people know, I always show kind of alpha when we're here, right? So this is the hustle screen. So you could kind of see all this crazy stuff that's going on here. I don't have anything in this wallet. So you got a Solana, Hedera, BSC, Ethereum, Polygon, and then Swell. This was a grant that we had. So deposits, right? You have this is quite easy to understand. We're going to be making an improvement to referrals. Cross-chain swaps, so you can swap any, and you could do all of this in the prompting center as well, right? So swap Ethereum for Solana. You will be able to swap Ethereum for Bitcoin here pretty soon. It'll show you your history. We have here Binance Smart Chain. We just added conditional trades to BNB. So Ethereum, we have conditional trades for Ethereum. Hedera, we have conditional trades. That's not anything new. And then Polygon conditional trades. This is what I'm most excited for is Poly Markets. This is actually like a pretty crazy product. I've been using this. So you can ask him on his views. Oops. You can ask him on his views, right? So ask Agent Hustle on Super Bowl. And then something new that we're working on here is alerts and notifications. So you'll get alert when people are buying and selling different positions. You'll be able to have him. I need to turn a lot of this stuff on. You'll be able to ask him about all these different prediction markets. You'll be able to, here, let me try that again now that it's on. And if this works well with alerts, we can expand this to every single chain to where you can have, let's say on Ethereum or Solana, you want to monitor a certain token. And if it has volumes or monitor a certain wallet, we want to build this into a terminal because we do feel like that is something that's been largely missed so far, is building that terminal-like experience. So if, right here, we're building a terminal where you can see buying and selling of certain bets, and as well as getting his input here on top of the markets and betting. I think that brings a unique dynamic that nobody else has. So there's a lot of stuff here. On top of this, one thing we're working on is we just added email, so you can sign in with the email. Our focus is making it as normie friendly as possible so that you don't have to have any crypto experience. And so we are going to be we're looking to add on and off ramps with USD and bank accounts and Apple Pay. So imagine this situation where you can deposit $1,000 from your bank account into your as USDC into your Ethereum account, or take $1,000 that buys Bitcoin and deposits it into your Hustle Bitcoin account. And then within the Hustle interface, you can swap that Bitcoin for Ethereum or Solana, Hedera, Pepe, you know, any tokens of that ecosystem. And or even deposit you know, for $1,000 from your Apple Pay into USDCE on Polygon, place a Polygon or onto Polygon, place a prediction market, cash that out, swap it back to Bitcoin, and send it to a Bitcoin wallet, right? So you could do that all within a Hustle interface.
I mean, if you guys turn Hustle into a terminal, I'm never gonna not use Hustle because I feel like that is. I think terminals are trying to integrate AI. By you guys doing it backwards, I think would be genius, because the terminal build is simple. I mean, not simple, but like you have the blueprint. The problem is getting a good AI agent to guide you through that, right? So an example would be like setting up conditional trades within a terminal. Money. You're using a 6-month-old token that has been around. It's sitting at $20 million market cap. It's not going to rug overnight. Tell Hustle to put you into a reoccurring 30% you know, scalping plan, right? That's, you just type that in. You don't have to know the configuration of the terminal and this and that. Hustle will set it up for you, right? And so I think that would be absolutely game changing. I will be your #1 person to scream to the top of the mountaintops, because it just makes everybody's life easier. And like I always say on the show, if you're building products and you're making people's life more convenient, they will use your product and they'll be loyal.
Yeah, I will say, so take all of that you have, and now add on top of this the Emblem AI platform, where you can sign a vault with your transactions. So think of this situation. You are somebody who doesn't know how to use crypto or whatever. You go to Agent Hustle, you deposit $500 from your Apple Pay into your Solana wallet in Agent Hustle, right? As Solana, you go swap a bunch of meme coins, you buy Pump token, but oh, you want to lend against the Pump token, but we don't have lending. Oh, well, with the Emblem AI platform, we can build a Hustle wallet extension where then you can, all of your assets in that wallet are now in that wallet extension that you can then go up, or then you can go take that Hustle wallet extension and log into Drift and then go use that pump to go margin long or short on your pump token. And you never even have to transfer out of your Hustle account, right? Like, so you, and then you can add on Hustle mobile experience, which is something that we're going to want to do. The goal is that Hustle will become the entry point to crypto, just as Coinbase has spent hundreds of billions of dollars on Coinbase being the entry point to the on-chain economy to Base. We're essentially doing the same thing here with 9 people and no funding, where Hustle becomes the entry point to the on-chain economy of any chain. And then we can just build tools using the Emblem AI platform to build out a Hustle wallet or build out a Hustle mobile wallet or a Hustle Telegram bot, where your assets inside of the Hustle website are automatically inside of that experience for every single chain, right? So this is something that Coinbase has spent hundreds of billions of dollars on. It's something that Shannon has spent basically the last 10 years building, and myself and everyone else on the team for the last 3. And we basically are building a more advanced version of what they're doing with less tooling and 99% less power and resources.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. I mean, Shannon's amazing, by the way. Yeah, absolutely. I think absolutely incredible. We have a couple questions here. Is there any interest in Emblem becoming a Hedera Hashgraph Council member? Does that come on the table for you guys?
If they offer it, it's something that we would definitely consider doing. We're just in this situation. We're not at liberty to spend time thinking about some of these more kind of refined things. We have to generate revenue or there's no business. So our focus is ensuring that business and revenue is coming to the platform. And if other, councils or other teams or other venture firms want to be the first one to invest into what we're building, the opportunity's there, but we're not at liberty to go, try to find those options because we don't have enough resources to go to have, be able to sit on 2 years of runway to, think about these things.
100%. And he says expansion of X402, and that's my favorite part. I right now I'm love the X402 narrative. I guess I think futuristic, right? I love the future thinking of what this can be, not what it is now. I think you guys already have that in your head.
The Emblem AI platform, X402 is integrated into all of the vaults. So Pay AI and Coinbase are going to be the 2 facilitators that are added. We're already, Pay AI is one of the migrating teams, which is the biggest X402 project, most popular. So we already have, you could just think of, things we've discussed already about it. But, consider this, the Emblem AI platform is basically what we initially had a vision for. It was a multi-chain wallet, which is what a vault is. A vault is just a multi-chain wallet in a sense, right? But it has support for every chain. It has X402 payment rails built directly into it. So you could send, Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these other things cross-chain, as long as there is a facilitator on that network who's verifying those transactions of that pathway. But any AI agent or any AI company, instead of using Privy, you just use basically Emblem AI platform that has X402 into it. And now your AI agent has a wallet with payment rails automatically integrated. And then we can add X402 into Agent Hustle itself. And we are considering, the either blend of the Hustle subscriptions with X402, or the replacement of it. There's kind of discussions on what's the right direction for that. But X402 is not going to go away. It's literally all over the internet now. It's like even outside of crypto, it's like made its way into the AI and tech sector. So that seems to be the form of a payment adoption for agentic pathways using stablecoins. And so we want to be a player in there. We're working with the right people, and the Emblem AI platform. Every single vault will support X402 through the Emblem AI platform.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. Amazing. WebDro says DCA hustle. I think everyone should be DCAing hustle every day. Shout to WebDro. And Stan says crazy customizable tools for tools that don't exist. Wow.
Yeah, the great thing is like, so our communities, painfully so, you know, some listen, some don't. We've said that when the technology is right, we will add tokenomics. Well, once the Emblem AI platform's live, then we have the technology to do different types of things, right? So smart vaults are essentially a smart wallet inside of a vault. So basically what it means is it's a smart, in short, it's a smart contract that holds deposit addresses for every single blockchain, right? That doesn't exist anywhere from my knowledge. So we're kind of first to the market here, and there is no Emblem vault competitor. There's literally none, surprisingly, even over the last 10 years. So, you know, with that, we could do like the hustle bridge. Obviously you have a privy competitor, and it allows the agents to do all kinds of unique things there. So really excited. Oh, what I was going to say is, so you could do things like time locked smart vaults, right? So essentially you have like staking, right? Or you have a smart contract based staking. So staking contracts that can do things inside of it that accept all kinds of deposit addresses. You could do things like buying and burning, right? Like those are kind of things that we've been waiting for the platform to get to. You can do different types of airdrop rewards. Although with airdrops, there needs to be some sort of revenue. And right now, there's just not that many people using AI products in crypto. That's just the unfortunate part. So you just have to continue to build. And then eventually you either have to become the narrative, right? Or you have to wait around and let the narratives become to you. And what Emblem has just done time and time again is be the narrative. We're the narrative creators. And so with all of these new products, I just don't think any other AI terminal can compete with something like this. Unfortunately, we probably have the least amount of resources compared to everybody else, but eventually, the work will pay forward and something will happen. This is what continually seems to happen. And we're going to continue to build with people who want to build with us and support the people that support us. And I just think 2026 is going to be gigantic. I mean, we still have a fourth application that's built on, or I guess it would be a third application built on top of Emblem, or fourth, I guess. If you consider Emblem Vision for the NFT bridge, Agent Hustle, MigrateFun, and then this fourth application that we haven't even released, it's built. So at some point that'll be ready. I think once the NFT market starts heating up, which again, we are kind of right on this thesis that the strategies are going to continue to be the dominant factor into 2026 for NFTs. I don't know if you saw like the TokenWorks announcement yesterday, but they're opening up the platform on Tuesday, as well as they launched something called recursive strategies, where it's a token, it's a strategies token that doesn't have an NFT base, but the token fees buy the token and burn itself. So it's a token that essentially eats itself. So strategies is just going to continue to dominate. And we have Nakamoto strategy, which, buys, we're just taking all the revenue from Emblem and just buying the token. Yesterday, somebody spent half an ETH minting vaults, and we just went and bought Nakamoto strategy with the token, right? So we're almost up to 10% of the token supply that we own of Nakamoto strategy. And so, we'll figure out what to do with it. So a lot of things that are coming to form. Took us 3 years to get to this point. And as long as we can survive and continue to drive revenue through MigrateFun, then everything that I've just said through this conversation is possible. So we'll see. I mean, we were now, I think, over 700 SOL spent on hustle buybacks as well, even though the hustle token is kind of in the toilet at the moment. Like, it's not going to always be the case. Once we start turning on a lot of these smart vault functions, and obviously you have to time the market as well. Not saying it has to be a perfect timing, but right now is not the time to release anything. I still think around Christmas time is when the market probably resumes back. But 2026 and Q1 specifically, I think is going to be a very, very big time for the company itself.
Yeah, I mean, you know, during the show before the live stream before you come on, we were going over when the Fed stopped QE was December 2021, and they're stopping QT in December of 2025. So it's almost the opposite of what the start of a bear market would be in macro terms, right? So maybe that year of COVID really did push it out a year, and we just, you know, we're just so stuck in the way that the cycles worked before. But man, I'm excited about everything. And I know MigrateFun is just thriving in terms of revenue generation, but I'm excited almost as much about the future of Hustle because I feel like it can be that one-stop shop. And every time there's an addition, it's not like sitting on your hands and waiting around. Like, what's the team doing? What's the team do? Like, I mean, you just showed us a preview of, I think it was 5 networks that's added to Hustle. To me, that's progress, right? And it obviously is, you know, the market needs to be in better conditions. Everything that was up in the summer is down trended because of the current market conditions. So you said that, you know, closer to Christmas is when you think things will get lively. So for the audience, probably whenever things will start to pop a little bit back off. But man, it's been an amazing session with you, Jake. As always, every Friday. I mean, you guys should feel lucky, CEO of you know, a revenue gen. I mean, I'm serious. Like, there's not many revenue generating protocols out there, and they are one. And he gives an hour every week to us and you guys. So, you know, really thankful for that. But wanted to give you the stage one last time before we let you go.
Yeah, man. If you're down horrendous, you know, take the time off. This is the time to do it. You're with your family. It's holiday season, so you know, really go touch grass, refresh yourself. You know, if you're in the Hustle community, we continue to push updates out. I recommend to not just focus on price because you're just going to drive yourself into depression. Unfortunately, it's hard for some people to do that, but you know, we're continuing to build, whether the market's up or whether the market's down. We have again, I think it's one of the best teams in the industry to be able to do what we've done with the available resources that we have. And yeah, I think Hustle has the opportunity to be the #1 agent, but also on a larger scale to be the entry point for the non-crypto native to enter the crypto markets in a compatible way that, you know, is relatable to them. And that's really our big focus is show up to Hustle. You have no crypto experience at all. And so, you know, I'm using some friends as kind of test dummies to say, hey, you know, see how far you can take this to and see if it's understandable. I think once we get the on-off ramps with USD, I think that becomes a lot more approachable, as well as the Emblem AI developer platform. So if you're a developer and want to build with any 3 of our products, you know, reach out to us. It'll be kind of white glove at first. So we'll, you know, offer it to the people that want. I mean, Joe Looney's reached out, who's like the Rare Pepe godfather. We've had some pretty interesting developers kind of follow up who want to do things. So if you're interested in the interoperability and intelligence layer of crypto, reach out, buy some Hustle, and I'll see you guys next week.
Sounds good, Jake.
See you guys.
Appreciate it. See you next week.
Yeah, man, absolutely awesome as always. Definitely my favorite hour in a week. I feel like that hour flies by too. I feel like I just have so many questions, and he knocks them out the park every single time. So if you guys are not keeping up with these Friday sessions, I feel like you're really missing out. Definitely got to if you don't watch any of the show all week, make sure you guys watching the final hour of the week. But it's been a great show today, man. We crushed it for a Black Friday. Not many podcasts, not many things that are happening. We're still here. We're still rocking with you guys, man. Appreciate every single one of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pensive Chepe, I guess, says, yo, we are in a super cycle. Yeah, that is what we kind of just ended the show on, right? It's like this extended business cycle, which typically is the 4-year cycle. And then COVID kind of pushed that out a year. But yeah, appreciate each and every one of you guys. 454 people on a Black Friday is amazing. So we appreciate each and every one of you all. Without you guys, we could not do the show. And we emphasize that every single day because we are very appreciative of your support. And we're also, really grateful for our partners because without them, we couldn't do this as well. Emblem Vault is the interoperability layer of the Bitcoin ecosystem. If you are looking to jump a Bitcoin NFT like a Rare Pepe, Nakamoto card, that type of NFT, or Bitcoin ordinal over to Ethereum, you've got to use Emblem Vault. Why? Because they've been doing this since 2021. They have the most experience in the space, and they're the most trusted in terms of this type of transaction bridging over, right? And right now you can actually take a loan out against your Taproot Wizard ordinal on the Gandhi application, which is the largest borrowing and lending application for NFTs on Ethereum. So make sure you're taking advantage of that service there, and they're going to be opening that up to other scaling layers and just other blockchains in general, right? And one of those is Solana. And speaking of Solana, they have the best AI product in all of Solana and Hedera, because they have Hedera BSC as well, and EVM, or Ethereum, I should say. But right now you can actually ask Hustle, hey, find me a couple low cap gems in the Solana ecosystem. He'll bring back a couple options for you and tell you why these are solid options. There is a free subscription level, so you can test it out with limited number of prompts, just for really kind of getting a taste of it and seeing if it's what you want. And if it is something you like, you can upgrade to the paid subscription, which is what I recommend because you get all of the tool sets there and a lot more prompts. And you can actually use the Hustle token, which is the single token that powers the entire Emblem ecosystem there. You'll get a 30% discount if you pay in Hustle token there. And then there is another product within the Emblem ecosystem called Migrate.Fun. And Migrate.Fun is a third-party servicer that helps you migrate from one Launchpad in Solana to another, because that liquidity is locked. They can guide you through the process. They've already been through 2 cohorts. They just wrapped up their last one with big brands like Pay AI, which is the X402 project that migrated. They help them. They walk you through the process, right? Of course, you need your community on board with this, but they're about to go in the 3rd cohort, which we talked about in the Hanging with Hustle hour with the PumpFun group there. So a lot of experience. They're leading this meta. So make sure you check them out at migrate.fun for more questions or anything that you need guidance on there. And you can go to emblem.vision to guide you through their entire ecosystem and break down the products that I just told you about there. And then Merlin Chain is uniting Bitcoin strength through the power of AI. They have their AI Wizard version 2.0 that can guide you through Merlin Chain's ecosystem, but it also can swap for tokens outside the ecosystem. If you have Merlin Chain Bitcoin in your Merlin Chain wallet, which is a MetaMask wallet or one of the Bitcoin approved wallets like Unisat and Xverse, then you can swap for Solana tokens or swap for BSC tokens, as that mechanism is programmed in the wizard there. But going back to the Merlin Chain ecosystem, it can guide you through the ecosystem and do some DeFi functionalities on your behalf, like swapping with Merlin Swap or staking on merlinchain.io. And speaking of staking, they have a proof of stake security model, and you can participate in 3 ways. The first way is staking Bitcoin to earn more Bitcoin. The first staking vault ended September 30th. They are 3-month-long staking vaults, and they got 17% APR for their stakers. Imagine earning 17% staking Bitcoin and paid in Bitcoin, by the way. And so their current staking vault goes until January 8th. And then they'll most likely start another one, but you can go to merlinchain.io to learn more there. And then there's 2 other ways to stake utilizing the Merlin Chain token. And the first one is the flexible day-to-day. You earn 15% APR, and you can claim your rewards every single day. You can do whatever you want with those rewards, but you can claim them every single day. If you do want to withdraw your Merlin Chain tokens, there's a 7-day cooldown period, so just know that. And then the last option is the bonded option, which is a 6-month lockup period, and you earn 45% APR for staking in Merlin Chain tokens. Obviously, you get paid back in Merlin Chain token as well, but this one's cool too because you can claim your rewards daily as well. So make sure you go to merlinchain.io to learn all about the ecosystem and the staking and everything they have to offer there. And we thank you so much for checking out our partners.
Yep. Great job, man. As always, and if you guys have a few more minutes and wouldn't mind checking out onchainrevolution.io, we have some of the best articles dating all the way back to 2023. If you know someone just entering the space, please send them our website. We really feel like we can help them get started and caught up to what we're doing today. Mainnet is the newest one, kind of breaks it down for you guys so you guys don't have to go after and ask anything or try to find something, right? Everything here is for you. 3 to 4 minute reads. They're very quick. You can probably knock them out quicker than that, honestly. And you guys can check them all out one by one. Just check out all the articles. If you guys need a VPN, I highly recommend Nord. NordVPN is something I use every single day. You guys can lock it in for 2 years, set it, forget it, and then you're able to use stuff like Hyperliquid. I've noticed the other day I was checking out the Phantom Wallet perps, and then it said, not in your jurisdiction. Realized my VPN was off. I was like, damn. So then I turned it back on, and then I'm able to use the Wallet perps in Phantom, which is just Hyperliquid in the back end. So you definitely always need a VPN. But remember, VPNs aren't illegal. Like, they're definitely illegal. Privacy is a right, especially here in the US, for you to put yourself to Italy and check out Italian TikTok or whatever you guys want to do. But check out a VPN here, and don't pay full price. Don't pay $11.59. Make sure you guys get our link and pay the $2.99 there. And on top of that, if you guys need a hardware wallet, we have an affiliate program with a Ledger now. Check out everything here if you guys need anything. Or if you're trying to buy a crypto person Christmas present, check out our deal here with them. Check that out here, guys. Everything at onchainrevolution.io. Remember, guys, we are live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 3 p.m. UTC. Check us out all week, guys. Until Monday.
Peace.
OnChain revolution roll call. Market recap. You're not bullish enough. No. You're not bullish enough. No. Look at the price go. Bitcoin control. Why you still coping? Price action rolling. Don't fall for bear trap. Swapping indexes and putting it up in the sex. I can take profit right now. OnChain is where I be now. You can never look back. They don't want you to know. How do the market react? Fear and greed gotta adapt. Now we bridging the tokens and arching the network right now. You know how crazy we are. Nookies are savages now. They know how crazy we are. Chain abstraction, main attraction.